Okay, the time is now 8:05. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is to have a pledge allegiance to the flag. It's up on the wall behind us, please. If you'll stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Got a couple of brief announcements before we really get to the first article. I want to offer a special thank you this morning to Judy Tilton. For the second or third year in a row, she has prepared and donated all the food, and any proceeds today from the food will be going to the senior center. So thank you very much, Judy. Also, people who very often go totally unrecognized are the supervisors of the checklist, and they are working up there in the corner checking people in and put in very long days at all of our elections, so I also want to thank you very much. Also, I've been given a short notice here to read. Right now we are doing, the town of Tilton is having an annual yard sale day. This is going to be on Saturday, April 26th, beginning at 8 a.m. You can sign up at the town meeting today at the recycling booth. There will be available by Friday, April 18th, a map of the town with little indicators of who's having yard sales and their addresses. The cost of this is $5. Each year the yard sale gets bigger and bigger, and we bring in a lot of people from around the surrounding towns who want to come through and pick through your trash. I have been asked to give a point of personal privilege to Pat Constantino, and so Pat, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sandy, we know that you don't like to have attention drawn to yourself, but please forgive us. We could not let this be your last town meeting as selectmen without letting you know how much the selectmen and all the town employees sincerely appreciate your selfless dedication to the town of Tilton. We also want to recognize your outstanding service to the town as the Land Use Administrative Assistant, Planning Board member from 1998 through 2007, especially these past 5 years as a member of the Board of Selectmen. We know about the countless hours you have volunteered serving our community, many of which people don't see outside of the recorded meetings, such as diligently researching town records, documents, most of which, unfortunately, are stored in our dank and dusty town hall basement, so that the board members would have everything we need to make a fair and equitable decision on a variety of matters. You were always prepared and provided with a wealth and depth of information. When it came to participating in community activities, you led by example, and were always right in the thick of things. Remember cleaning out the old carriage house at the Tilton Senior Center? Clearing debris from around the old Ernie's garage site to make the area safe before the building could be demolished? Helping with the Winnipesaukee River Trail's annual auction? Actively participating in Old Home Day Committee and the annual Christmas Parade? Collecting food during the annual Vicky Version food drive? Delivering food baskets to the elderly and those in need at Thanksgiving and Christmas time? The list could go on and on and on. But most of all, we admire you for your genuine caring, thoughtfulness, and kindness you have shown to everyone. Sandy, you will be truly missed. We have a little something for you so you can enjoy your retirement.
I live here too, and I've gotten to know a lot of my neighbors and the townspeople, and that will always be a treasure to me. Thank you.
Okay, as this is our deliberative session, we want to confirm that all of those people who are now seated inside the railings are registered town voters. I hope that each of you here has also picked up, even though it was handwritten, your voter card for the day, because when we do call for a standing vote, I'm going to have you hold up that voter card. People who are to be seated in the back and outside the railings are those who are not voting residents. So if you would kind of just check around beside you and make sure that everyone who is around you and next to you is a resident and voter in the town of Tilton. When we do standing counts, I'm going to ask, I have two assistant moderators, which I will introduce in a moment. They will be counting the votes. They're going to be counting people who are standing up and holding their voter cards, but you must be inside the railing when that vote is called. That means not standing in the back. At least let me introduce myself. I'm Chuck Mitchell, you're a town moderator. I don't know why, but I got reelected, unfortunately, for another 2 years. To my left, your right, Town Clerk Cindy Reinhardt, Town Clerk Tax Collector Cindy. To my right and your left, we have Chairman of the Selectmen, Pat Constantino. And Pat, would you introduce the rest of the Selectmen, please?
Thank you. To my left is Catherine Dawson. To my right is Sandy Plessner, Joe Jessman, Al Plant, Finance Director Tim Pearson, Town Administrator Joyce Fulwiler.
And to my left and your right, I'm going to introduce John Scanlon, Chair of the Budget Committee. And would you introduce members of the Budget Committee, please?
Sure. We have to my right here, Jane Alden, Eric Byron, Dan Brown, and Wayne Brown.
And my assistant moderator right here is Linda Burns. In the front seat over here, Vinnie Condrotis and Helen Hanks. And they are the three assistant moderators today who will be helping with any counting and other duties. I'm going to go immediately to the election results. The elected for selectmen, I think you can see on the left, we have Joe Jessamine and John Scanlon. Budget Committee, Stan Brown and Jane Alden. Town Clerk, Cindy Reinhardt. Chuck Moderator. Chuck is Moderator. Supervisors of the checklist, Judy Tilton, got reelected for 6 years. 6 years. And for Executive Council, Joe Kenny, 198, Michael Grimes, 141. Trustees of the trust funds, Jan Boudreau and Marie Mahoney by a write-in, and Peter Fogg for Sewer Commission. Thank you to those folks for their service to the town. The next thing I would like to talk about are the moderator's rules. I assume you had the chance to pick them up. They are up on the back table. But I do want to review just a couple of them before we move on. And the first one is, sometimes when we get debating an article, we have people who want to jump right up and say it's time, can I move the question or close debate? So I would like to just review with you. If you want to close debate or call the question, we are doing it here, and you will notice that it is non-debatable, and in fact it requires a 2/3 vote. The next one is tabling a motion. I'm not sure everyone here is familiar with what tabling actually does, it is supposed to be to postpone action on an item until sometime later in the meeting. It is not intended to kill a motion, it's intended to delay action on it. Again, you will notice here that this only requires a majority vote and is non-debatable. Something which we've begun to use at the town meeting for a number of years is called protecting your vote. And protecting your vote is actually something called restricting reconsideration. That means you do not want someone else to then later in the meeting ask for a reconsideration. So if you move the question, move to protect your vote, what you're really doing is moving to restrict reconsideration. Again, you will see that this is a majority vote. This is something that you can move anytime after a motion passes or even fails, so that the item could not be reconsidered. The last one I want to just mention is reconsidering a vote. And we have had this in the last few years. The intention behind this, or the purpose, is not to give somebody on the losing side an opportunity to come back later and then to actually try to change people's minds. The intent behind it is that perhaps a motion did pass, you have found new information that would cause you to change your mind, and if the motion had passed, that you would now vote against something. So it's not just simply bring a vote back so we can do it later. Also, if any item is reconsidered, it must be brought back at another meeting at least 7 days later. Any questions on that one? It's one I hope that we do not use today. Voting on most warrant articles are going to be done by a voice vote. When in doubt, I will ask people to stand and we'll do a standing count. I would ask you again, if you want your vote to count, please remain inside the railing. Today there will be 3 secret ballots. The first one by law is Article number 2, and all bond issues have to be done by a secret ballot. And that bond issue will, the ballot box or the voting will have to remain open for 1 full hour. That is by state law. The other 2 items are Article number 3, which deals with pay-as-you-throw, and Article number 7, which is dealing with the raises for the police department. Those 2 items are those 2 articles, Article 3 and Article 7. Those polls do not have to stay open for an hour, and as soon as everyone has voted, then we can go ahead and move on and count those. When we do have, because we have 3 ballot votes, we're going to be asking people to proceed by section, such as this section and so forth, and then this section. And we've had some compliments in the last couple of years because anyone who needs any kind of assistance or extra time will be allowed to vote first. The ballot box is going to be in the back of the room, up near the water fountain. An assistant moderator will be at the ballot box. When you pick up a ballot, you will have to bring your voter card up. They will punch your voter card. They will give you a ballot. Please mark that ballot, fold the ballot in half once, and then hand it to the moderator, the assistant moderator. Believe it or not, this is all part of the state statutes. And then the assistant moderator will place the ballot into the ballot box. We are asking everyone to please bring their own ballots up. Do not try to send a family relative up with your ballot so that they show up with like 2. Only 1 per person. We would also ask people, especially on warrant articles 3 and 7, to try to return back to their seats fairly soon so that we can continue on with the agenda. Today we want to make sure to allow everyone who wants to speak the opportunity to speak. We are also asking people, when they do get to the microphone, The maker of a motion can have up to 5 minutes. Anyone else who is speaking for or against the motion, part of the moderator's rules, should you accept them, is a 2-minute time limit. Linda, my assistant, has a sign, one that will indicate 15 seconds, and the other side that says your time is up. She does have a stopwatch. As a courtesy, no one wants to be cut off in the middle of what they're saying, and if something it runs an extra 5 or 10 seconds long, we probably won't get too upset. But as a courtesy to everyone else in the room, please try to keep your remarks to the 2 minutes. Thank you very much on that. I do intend, when the time comes, if we have any town agents, consultants, or employees of the town that need to speak to one or more of the articles, to allow them that privilege. The normal procedure for reading is to read the warrant at the very beginning. I am going to actually ask your permission to not read the full warrant today, but read each warrant as we get to it. So, without objection on that. At this point, I would like to accept a motion to accept the moderator's rules as presented. Yes, sir? Okay, and a second by Vinnie Pedrotis. Could you repeat your name one more time?
Yes, John Barrett.
Okay. When you come to the microphone to speak in the future, please give your complete name and address, because this is being recorded as well, and also our town clerk has to do the minutes, and she needs everyone's name to be in the minutes. Thank you very much. Let's now start and go right then to Article number 2. Article number 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,765,000 to participate in the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation municipally managed State Highway 8 program to reconstruct the following state roads in the town of Tilton: Caleb Hill Road, Clark Road, Colby Road, and Winter Street, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $2,765,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for and to accept and expend any state or other aid that may become available for the said project, provided, however, that the Board of Selectmen shall not be authorized to issue any bonds or notes unless or until the town has received a binding commitment for state aid for the said project in the amount of at least equal to 2/3 of the total cost of the project. Please note that this is not included in the operating budget, but it is recommended by both the Budget Committee and the Selectmen, and will require a 2/3 majority on this particular one. This is going to be originally moved by Pat Constantino.
Point of order.
Yes.
Get the vote on that last motion first.
Last motion, which is?
Accept the rules.
You are correct. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the moderator's rules, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Pat, would you like to move Article 2?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 2 to the floor for discussion.
Pat Constantino has moved Article 2. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Jerry.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Pat.
I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 2.
Okay, Pat would like to amend Article number 2.
I would like to amend the article to read as such: to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,675,000 to participate in the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation municipally managed state highway aid program to reconstruct the following state road in the town of Tilton, Caleb Hill Road, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $2,675,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the Municipally Finance Act, RSA 33, and authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, accept, and expend any state or other aid that may become available for said project, provided, however, that the Board of Selectmen shall not be authorized to issue any bonds or notes unless and until the town has received a binding commitment for state aid for said project in an amount at least equal to 2/3 of the total cost of the project.
Okay, the amendment has been made by Pat Constantino and seconded by Sandy Plessner. As you can see up here, the second line, the red print, and then down here, it's being changed to just Caleb Hill Road, and then the amount of money again. Pat, would you like to speak to this motion and to the amendment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Catherine and I think we'll both speak on this. This is, the selectmen have met with the New Hampshire DOT commissioners, I think 2 or 3 times, three times, as recently as March 7th. We originally put in the 4 roads, Caleb, Clark, Colby, and Winter. The state of New Hampshire, in their state aid program, absolutely insists on us taking back the road once it's reconstructed, and having Clark, Colby, and Winter being the sole access to the state veterans' home and the potential of them expanding in the next couple of years, we thought that that was not in our best interest to take back those roads. Therefore, the state said, well, you know, we really don't want to join in with you in the state aid program if you're not willing to take back the roads. So we're looking into other alternatives and monies, and that's not a done deal. We're still negotiating. We still need to have those roads fixed. But at this point in time, we would like to have Caleb Hill repaired. It's in badly need, as everybody knows that it is. The school buses are now having to go on the opposite side of the road and the wrong side, a different direction, to avoid some protrusions in the road as it is right now, which is extremely unsafe. We've met with the senators. They've gone out with us. The commissioners have gone out with us, and they've taken a tour on the roads. They all agree. As usual, they said there's no money to do it. There is a possibility of it being a 20/80 instead of a 1/3, 2/3. The earliest that we can be on, we have to pass this article in order for us to get in the queue. In order for us, once we're in the queue, work can begin in the fiscal year, the state's fiscal year of 2019, which would be the spring of 2018. No monies will be expended from this until the latter part of 2017, which would be design work. And then the state will reimburse us a portion of that in the latter part of 17, early 18 on the design work. And then we will go forward with the regular work in the beginning, spring of 2018 is when Caleb Hill will actually be in the queue to get the work done on total reconstruction. And then we will take the road over after that. We hire the engineer. We work with the state. We say it's okay. It's $1 million a mile is the estimate. Caleb Hill is 2 miles long, just shy of 2 miles long. The estimated cost for design work is 10%, which will bring you about $200,000, and that's what will be expended the latter part of 2017, early part of 2018. And then the state told us to figure in 5% inflation costs from now until the actual work gets done. And that's why you get the figure of the 2.76 million. Did I forget anything? Catherine, you want to fill in anything here? We can answer the questions, and I'm sure we've got a couple of points here. We'll be more than happy to answer any of the questions. We've met with some of the people on Caleb Hill Road and Winter and Clark and Colby. Some of them went out with us on the tour.
Just curious, how many people here, with a quick show of hands, have driven up and down Caleb Hill Road lately? Okay, then I guess that's enough. I guess that you can probably understand why there's a need for road repairs there. Yes? Yeah, no, hopefully.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
I have a little question. In the original warrant article, it was $2,765,000. We dropped 3 roads and it only goes down $90,000.
That was an error. We estimated Caleb Hill Road to be 1.3 miles.
Okay.
And that was clearly an error. We picked the error up in a meeting with the state on March 7th. It's actually like 1/10 of a mile short of 2 miles.
Thank you.
That was the error.
Good morning. Pat, Scott Davis.
Scott Davis.
Pat, will that be a full box construction at that cost?
I'm not sure what you mean by.
I mean, are they going to be down?
The state calls it a heavy maintenance standard, which goes down a foot. Did they say a foot?
Yeah.
So it's not considered a full box construction?
They do
They're not-
culverts and drainage down a foot, 6 inches of asphalt.
And what about the ledge that's up
I
there?
don't believe that the answer to your question on the box, they didn't use that term, but I'm going to say no.
The 5%, that's per year? Is that how you said 5%?
That's what they estimate per year in rising costs in asphalt and other things, maintenance. That's what usually they can guesstimate as far as what their state aid program has risen over the years. It's been a pattern.
And how many years are we figuring that for, Pat? The 5%?
If we pass this bond now, we're figuring 3 years, so 2014 to 2000, their fiscal year 2018.
Hey, Scott, do you have another question?
Yeah. In your letter that you had posted on your website on state roads from the commissioner back in August, Pat, that was brought to the Board of Selectmen, he states in that letter that this program is completely booked out through 2019. So should we be thinking possibly past 20 as far as the amount of dollars that we're looking at, if we're talking about a 5% increase each year?
They told us we could be in the queue for the fiscal year of 2019, which the work would begin the spring of 2018. That was confirmed on March 7th, if this bond passed.
Are there any other questions? Now, this is with the amendment. If there are no further questions, then I'm going to call this for a vote. And all you're doing at this point is to approve substituting the language which is up on the screen for Article 2. We are not voting on Article 2 yet. Any questions? No other questions, okay? All those in favor of amending Article 2 to the language that you see up on the screen, would you please say aye? Aye. Opposed, nay. I declare the motion is now passed for the amendment. So now the amendment becomes the main motion. Now, if you have any questions or concerns about the motion itself or the article itself, which is to appropriate $2,675,000, now would be the time to start asking other additional questions or making comments. Yes.
Good morning, Heather Bishop Dumka. I live on School Street. I was just wondering, I've been on Caleb Hill, but I also live on School Street. How was it decided that Caleb Hill was worse than School Street?
Okay, Catherine?
School Street is a numbered route. It's a state aid, it's a state road numbered route, therefore it doesn't qualify for state aid. Caleb, Clark, Colby, and Windsor are unnumbered routes.
Okay.
So they're the state aid routes. The state is solely responsible for repairing its numbered routes. The town doesn't, have any cost, anything to do with it.
Can I just ask what we have to do to address that? Because normally a 5-minute drive from my house into town is now 25 minutes.
I can appreciate that. I picked my muffler up a few weeks ago on School Street.
Yeah.
We have addressed that with the state. We let them know how horrible School Street is. Petitions from residents on the streets that we can get to our representatives, that we can get to DOT and let them know that, it's almost impassable. I was at 15 miles an hour when I lost that muffler.
Yeah, right above my house, I live at 383, right past my house, between my house and Samberton. It's literally like just giant craters. So I didn't know what we had to do to try to get some work on that. And I've been living there for 8 years now, and they've never really done anything except for throw some dirt in and maybe throw a little bit of tar on top of some cracks. I didn't know what we had to do to get that done.
Okay,
It's power in numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I live on Tilton Road. And I would like to know what you are going to do in the meantime until 2018 or 19 to make sure that we are no longer putting thousands of dollars into our vehicles, that we have slower emergency response times because not even EMS can get to us in a timely manner with these roads. And why did the town allow this to go on as long as it did? Why was this not addressed a long time ago? As a resident of Tilton, this is very disappointing.
Mr. Mauer?
Yes, Pat, would you like to respond?
The town hasn't let it go for a long time.
Sorry,
We've been
do you see
fighting.
the roads? Have you
Excuse
driven on
me,
them?
please do not
We
interrupt.
have, and we've been working with the senators and fighting with the state for a very long time. I've been a selectman for 5 years, and this has been an issue, an ongoing issue. However, the state has committed this year some funds to repair a portion from Daniels on up to Parents around the corner. There are funds that they are coming from a different pocket that they're going to Band-Aid that corner where the protrusion is coming up. And so that's just a temporary Band-Aid until we can get the road absolutely repaired. And that's a start in the right direction, and that's all the state will do. And that's after we've had the senators out there. That's short of having the governor come out and ride on the roads. That's just about where we're at. We're not in a unique situation with other towns, and we're fighting for the small pocket of monies that's available, and that's where we're at. We have been fighting diligently for our monies for our town. We have a little over 50% of our roads that are state roads versus town roads.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for your time.
Lynn Fox. I'm curious we dropped the other Clark Road and Colby Hill Road and Winter Street. That intersection, where all of those roads come together is truly one of the worst bits of road in Tilton. Will that be encompassed in this, or is that, it doesn't come down that far, so we're gonna leave that incredible roller coaster and car destroyer
Temporarily,
in place?
yes.
Pat, yes. Please try to make sure that your questions are directed through the moderator, then we will make sure that you get the proper response. We'll try to keep this from becoming a dialogue between two people, okay? As much as possible. Pat?
Sorry about that. Yes, we will not be correcting that intersection at this time. We are still negotiating with the state. We're still working on getting the Colby, Clark, and Winter. We are not leaving that project behind. We are diligently working on that. We have some other avenues that we can explore and go forward with the project. We just didn't have time enough to research further after some other things had come on available to us. So we are still diligently working on getting that in. So it's not, at this time, this project, it's not that intersection, correct?
Well, I mean, I do understand the state of Caleb Hill Road is horrendous, like many streets in Tilton are. They've been slowly crumbling through the years. But to deal with Caleb Hill Road and not deal with that intersection, it just seems like you're just Band-Aiding, really, you know, trying to put a Band-Aid on a horrendous wound, you know, just...
Thank you. Your point is very well taken, Lynn.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
A question that I ask is, we're participating with the state of New Hampshire in this project. If we remember back when we did the Pine Street Bridge project, there was two projects that came forward, or two designs that came forward. One was working with the state to get state money, and the other was for the town to just do it themselves. One was a 10-foot box culvert, and one was a 6. If we were going to get state money, it was going to have to do the 10-foot. If we were, with the way we did it, we ended up going on our own. We did it as a 6-foot. Is there, by doing or participating in this program, does it force us to do certain things that we wouldn't normally do, and which adds cost to the project?
Catherine?
The only way, because this is a Class 2 state aid road, the only way to get it fixed is for the town to participate in this project. It's a state-owned road. It's not town-owned, it's state-owned. So there's no other way for the town to participate in getting the road fixed. If the state doesn't, if this doesn't pass, the state has said, and I'm quoting, "We will try to hold them together the best we can with the resources we have." So to answer your question, there's no other program out there for us. This is it.
So, Mr. Moderator, my other question would be, then once we participate in this project on Caleb Hill, and the road becomes a town road, we cannot participate on Caleb Hill with this type of program in the future. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Microphone 2, Mr. Clark.
Pat Clark. First of all, I want to commend the selectmen for all the work they put into this. This is just some of the documentation of the back and forth that they went through with DOT. I happen to live on Caleb Hill Road. I was concerned about the original motion for a lot of reasons, and I'm still somewhat concerned about this one. My concern about the original motion was that it had 4 roads in it, it had one figure, and that could be shifted around any way you wanted to at the time. Number 2, we did not have real accurate figures, and I'm concerned that we don't have real accurate figures right now other than what we've been able to get from DOT. The changes that have come about here have come about towards the tail end, and I'm really concerned that we might be rushing too soon. On the other hand, I've been paying close attention and done some looking into with DOT. They're considering right now, as we speak, to improve the gas tax situation by 4 cents, which will give us about another 25 to 30 million towards road improvement. We're about 100 million in the hole right now at DOT, so that doesn't really take care of things. The game plan, I've been told, for Colby, Clark, and Winter Street is to get that taken care of by the state as much as possible, because the direct access to the veterans home. And I would hope that the selectmen would work with many other cities and towns and veterans groups to get that taken care of. I'm on the fence with this one. I think I'm willing to support it. I've got some concerns with it, but I think you've narrowed down and answered a lot of the questions that I have. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Nancy Trousdale, I live on the bump end of Fieldville, which is the closest to Sanborn and
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I live on the bump
Repeat your
end.
name, please.
Nancy Trousdale,
Thank you, Nancy.
and I live on the bumpy end, like near Sanborn. I know Mr. Clark lives on the smooth end, and it's not a far cry to get down into Tilton and onto Route 3 and out of here. But when you live on the bumpy end and your children are learning to drive and they've got to ride these routes on the back seat of the bus, it's dangerous. You not only have to think about your cars, your property values, your emergency times, but you also need to think about your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews riding those buses. Not just that they're coming from Caleb Hill, but they're coming from Sanborn, they're coming from Northfield. That's a major route, so please consider that. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I think it's, yes, Jerry?
Yes, I'm Jerry Davis, live on 28 Prosser Street. I have been up on that road and with the fire department and stuff like that. And I think we should pass this thing. Pass it good, and the town is working hard for it, and I agree with them. Thank you.
Okay, time's now 8:46. Without any further discussion on this, I'm going to go ahead and call the vote so that we can begin doing a ballot vote. Supervisors and checklist, you got ballots ready and ready to punch them? Are there any residents who feel they need a little extra time, would like to head up to the supervisors of the checklist now? Okay, on this ballot vote, then let's go ahead and take everyone on this section, and you may go ahead, please, file up this way, get your ballot, deposit it in the ballot box up by the water fountains. And folks over here will have you go in a couple of minutes. Polls will be open until 8:48.
They're never going to be able to get the money because they can't out at least
over on this side, please go ahead.
Summer, they'll come around and they'll put a little bit of tar on top of the cracks. All right, yeah. We just wanted, because as I'm running on that road, I see where they need to put the stuff. There's a huge crack. Oh, yeah, you know.
everyone has voted, we will go ahead and begin discussion on other articles, okay? We don't want to keep you here all day. return to their seats, we'll go ahead and continue on with the meeting. Considering that warrant article number 3 is also going to be voted on by secret ballot, with your permission, we'll go directly to Article 4. Is there anyone who objects? Okay, we'll go right, yes.
I object.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to vote on it now, or go through the motions now.
Please go to the microphone, I can't hear you.
Good morning, my name is Kristen Streets, I live on Grant Street. I would just like to have the opportunity to discuss and vote on this now and not come back to it at a later time.
We can discuss this right now, but because it is by secret ballot and we have one ballot box, we cannot vote on it until after the 1 hour is up for the article number 2. But if you would like to discuss article number 3 now instead of after the hour, that 1 hour for Article 2, that we can do that.
Oh, no, I understand. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Then we'll go to Article 4. Article number 4, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following resolution. To urge the New Hampshire State Legislature join nearly 500 municipalities in 16 other states, including all of the New England states, in calling upon Congress to move forward with a constitutional amendment that guarantees the rights of our elected representatives and of the American people to safeguard fair elections through authority to regulate political spending, and clarifies that the constitutional rights were established for people and not for corporations. That the New Hampshire congressional delegation supports such a constitutional amendment. That the New Hampshire legislature supports such an amendment once it is approved by Congress and sent to the state for ratification. The record of the vote approving this article shall be transmitted by written notice to Tilton's congressional delegation, to the Tilton state legislators, and to the President of the United States, informing them of the instructions from their constituents by the selectmen within 30 days of the vote. This was submitted by petition. I believe Pat is going to move this for discussion.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 4 to the floor for discussion.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Jerry Davis. Is there anyone here who signed or brought the petition forward that would like to speak for it?
I would like to speak to it. I hope others will as well. My name is David Fox. I live at 98 High Street in Tilton, New Hampshire. Under current law, campaign finance allows corporations to be treated as individuals, to give unlimited funds to campaigns, and to not have to disclose the money that they were giving or donating to those campaigns. This is a wordy article because it's on ballots across the country, and they have to satisfy all the different rules across the country on the ballots they put it on. But what we're simply saying is, we think that corporations are not people, that they should have to, and at the very least, if they give money to campaigns, they should have to disclose who they are and how much they're giving, so that we know where the funding to our elected officials or politicians, where the money comes from and where it's going, in an interest of shedding light and full disclosure.
Do we have anyone else that would like to speak either for or against this? Okay, Jane. We'll call Jane first, and then microphone 2.
Jane Alden, Tilton. I'd just like to say that I've heard many people say nobody can be president, nobody can be governor unless they're rich. That's a sad commentary. And usually it's not because those individuals are rich. It's because those individuals are backed by corporations. We don't even know who those corporations are. And those corporations are really casting our vote because they're not allowing the little man or the man on the street who used to be able to run and win have an opportunity to be in power again. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
My name is Jackie Rushlow, and I just want to say I don't think this should be limited to corporations. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I'd go as far as to say I think that it
Scott Davis?
Scott Davis, sorry about that. I'd go as far as to say I think this should also include the lobbyists in Washington. They should be treated like scalpers at a ball game because they create more problems and they silence the voter by influencing the politician. Thank you.
Yes.
Aubrey McBee of Tilton. My concern is that many of these corporations are international entities, and I really don't want other nations involved in our political life.
Question?
Seeing no one else to speak, I am going to go ahead and call the question. I will read it one more time, proper protocol, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following resolution to urge New Hampshire State Legislature join nearly 500 municipalities in 16 other states, including all New England states, in calling on Congress to move forward a constitutional amendment that guarantees the right of our elected representatives and of American people to safeguard fair elections through authority to regulate political spending, and clarifies that the constitutional rights were established for people and not corporations. That the New Hampshire congressional delegation supports such a constitutional amendment. That the New Hampshire State Legislature supports such an amendment once it is approved by Congress and sent to the state for ratification. The record of the vote approving this article shall be transmitted by writing to the Tilton's congressional delegation, to the Tilton State Legislators, and to the President of the United States, informing them of the instructions from their constituents by the selectmen within 30 days of this vote. All those in favor of the article, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes, I so declare. Let's go to article number 5.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Clark.
Can we note that that was done unanimously?
Absolutely. Wait a minute, was there a vote against? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was not unanimously. I would have put that.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I brought that up is because in the article it talks about submitting a written notice of the count. And we didn't take a count, we didn't do a standing count. So if it was unanimous, then it would be an easy no-brainer. But if it's not, I think we might need to do a
I have
count.
one in the negative.
Pardon?
One in the negative.
How many in the positive?
The rest of them.
I believe the article where it says the record of the vote could be just simply that it passed, without necessarily having to give the exact numbers. We could say almost unanimous.
Yeah, I would have been on top of that path.
Okay, we'll move on to article number 5 to see if the town will vote to adopt the Tilton Pawnbroker Ordinance in accordance with New Hampshire RSA Chapter 398. A copy of the ordinance is in your town report. This is going to be moved by Pat Constantino. Pat?
Moderator, I move Article 5 to the floor for discussion.
It's been moved by Pat Constantino and seconded by Jerry Davis. Pat, would you like to speak to that, please?
I would defer this to the chief to speak on the pawnbrokers ordinance. Okay.
Chief Cormier, if you'll please come down and take a microphone.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You take that right out, Chief, if you want to hold that on the bottom, hold that wire.
Okay, all set.
Yeah, you can face the folks.
Morning, everyone. So, one of the things that obviously keeps us busy is we're trying to, as quickly as possible, put together the burglaries that we get each year. A lot of the items that get taken in your houses unfortunately end up in pawn shops, whether it be jewelry or televisions or weapons. And a lot of the stuff we do get can be either resold or melted down, and it's kind of on a voluntary basis right now. So my detectives have asked me to put this ordinance together so that we could ask our stores to hold these items for 7 days. We've had burglaries where jewelry was stolen, and within a day or two it was all melted down. Some of it was precious jewelry, family stuff that had been in the family for generations. So what we're doing is we're asking the stores to keep a record of what they take in, and then also hold it for 7 days. And so I just ask you to consider this morning for us. Thank you.
Excuse me, we have someone else that would like to speak. Pat?
Part of what the pawnbroker's ordinance also says is that they have to take a picture along with the group of jewelry that comes in or items that come in, and a picture of the ID next to the jewelry so that they can identify which one comes in with which person. And I think that's really important. We have jewelry stores that buy gold, and now it's coming up more and more in the town of Tilton, and I think it's very important.
Anyone else to speak on this? Okay, Bob, would you come down to this one? Glenn?
Bob Hardy, Winter Street, Tilton. I'd just like a clarification. You go in this ordinance definitions, but you talk about a purchaser, but you never talk about what the seller is. And all through the article it says seller, but you don't define seller. And then on the end of the article you talk about second-hand dealers, and you don't identify what a second-hand dealer is. So I'm just curious what those mean. I'm assuming the seller is anybody bringing an article in, but you don't define it in your article.
I'm going to give the chief a chance to respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Bob. So it'd be anyone that is either licensed or through the town has got a permit to sell. And so we're not, the intent behind the ordinance isn't to necessarily put restrictions on individuals, but businesses or someone that sets up a temporary business in town. Anyone that would be buying items like jewelry, gold, weapons, in a business format, we would want them to keep a record for us for 7 days.
Microphone to, excuse me, Bob, you have to follow up.
Yeah, the part that I'm referring to, it says no transaction shall occur if the identity of the seller cannot be proven. What you just said was seller was the business.
Okay, Bob, yeah, I'm sorry about that. The people that bring in the items, that they have some proof of identification, that's what we're looking for.
Well, what I'm saying is you don't describe this. What I'm saying is nowhere in your definitions do you define what a seller is, and I'm just concerned that it's an oversight in your definition section.
Yeah, I believe, Bob, it's going to be someone that would bring the item in for either monetary value or in trade for something. So if you bring something into fast cash and you want money for it, you would be the seller. Is that your question?
I think Bob is saying he would like to see that more clearly defined in the ordinance itself.
Right.
Do you have, Bob, at this point, so that we can move forward with this today, a suggestion for an amendment? Because if you do, then we can move this on today.
Yeah, I'll make an amendment that we define seller in the definition section.
Well, perhaps you could work on something for a moment, too. Yes. Lynn?
I'm just a little bit... Oh, I'm sorry, with Lynn Fox, 98 High Street. I'm concerned about, I understand what this ordinance is attempting to do, as to, to allow people to recover their stolen items. But I am worried about the issue of having to identify yourself if you sell something. That's it's a slippery slope, and where do you go from here, and what else? Do I have to identify myself when I sell things I legally own? It just is a concern.
Yes, microphone two.
Dennis Manning. My concern, I'm all for this and everything, but I'm just looking at this where you give the, says the reporting. they have to report it as soon as possible, no later than 7 days. Well, if they're holding it for 7 days, and they have 7 days to report it before they can sell it, destroy it, or what have you, I just think that needs to be clarified also. Just so, you know, as far as enforceability. I don't know if you got that, Chief. What I was talking about is the 7 day when they have to report it. Because like I said, it says as soon as possible, but no later than 7 days after the completion of the transaction. So if they have 7 days to report it to you, and they only have to hold it for 7 days, where does that 7 day period start?
Right, as soon as they take it, they already do this now. We have this agreement with Fast Cash where they report everything to us weekly. And so we haven't had any non-compliance with the businesses in town. We've all talked to them about it. But we're asking that they send us that record within 7 days. So we actually have it in our hands and that they can't get rid of it for 7 days. And they have to photo it. And the detectives felt that that would be sufficient for us.
But they don't have to get rid of it until 7 days after the report? Okay.
After the 7th day. Right?
Okay.
And by then we would have a record of it.
Sure.
And so there are some cities that have 30 days. We thought 7 was adequate. But I appreciate the question though, because it is good. We don't want to have something slip through.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Heather Bishop Dumka. I have a question. We have at least, to my knowledge, 5 businesses that take consignment or pawn in our town alone. Now, would half of them only have to be able to photograph everything that comes in? Would it only be jewelry and electronics? Because if I took in, say, 6 bags of clothing to grow in like a weed, would they have to go through every single article of clothing and take that into consideration and photograph it and everything? Or are we discriminating against some businesses because they take higher end goods as opposed to other businesses in town?
No, we're not trying to discriminate. Actually, we're trying to be fair, but obviously things like clothing wouldn't necessarily be, that isn't what's causing the problem for us with burglaries. So we try to look at the items that are most commonly taken in burglaries and where they end up. And you know, if we felt that there were a lot of stolen clothes going into a particular business, then we would go and investigate it.
Because like if somebody came into my house and stole, like, I don't have a lot of expensive purses or a lot of expensive jewelry, but if they came in and then they went down to the consignment shop on Main Street and I tried to sell that or they tried to sell that, would they need to also log that stuff with you? Or is it just certain stores in the town have to do this with you?
No, anyone that's buying items, and so if it was a significant amount of expensive purses, for example, we would ask them to record it and photo them.
Because I think this is not clear enough in the writing for us to actually pass. Because under the way it's written right now, to my knowledge, half of the consignment places need to and the other half don't. And it could get really slick with, you know, how much we have to, what the monetary price is before they have to come to you and tell you that they got that much money.
Okay, Bob? I'm sorry, Bob, you have already spoken to this young lady.
Karen Johnson, Ruby Lane in Tilton. And my concern is that the way it is written, it's not, along with him, that it's not very well, some of the articles aren't very well defined as to what, for example, perhaps for a seller you could put down, add like a K that says, you know, down here, it's, okay, seller, person who's, seller is anyone to bring item, yeah, and anyone who would bring an item to an approved pawnbroker or pawn shop for sale. And the other question is, to address with her, is that in your definitions, you have D and E as pawn broker and pawn shop defined. But does that, and I'm not completely familiar with this RSA, does that include consignment shops?
Looks like we have a little collaboration going on, but in the interest of clarification, I'm going to allow this. Go right ahead, Helen.
Helen Hanks, Tilton, New Hampshire.
I was looking up the statute referenced here, RSA 398, as I thought it was a great question. Is consignment considered a pawnbroker? The statute is titled Pawnbrokers and Moneylenders. So under our town ordinances and such, do you see consignment shops need to come in and show that they're a pawnbroker or moneylender? Because that would really be the defining variable from what I'm reading in the statute.
I'm just saying that perhaps it needs to go back to an attorney. That, you know, obviously, I mean, and I'm totally for this, but maybe it needs to go back to an attorney to be rewritten to clarify all these things that are, you know, seem to be in question here. And also, as far as the 7-day thing, I mean, another thing to do on that was where it says that they have to report it within 7 days and that they have to hold it for 7 days. Well, shouldn't it perhaps say that they have to hold it for at least 7 days after it's been reported to the police and not after they've taken it in? But these are just some, that's what I'm thinking, maybe it needs to be rewritten to be more clarified.
Thank you. Bob, did you want to...
Yes, I'd like to amend it to add an item K to the definition. An item K should read, a seller is anyone bringing an item into an approved pawnbroker or pawn shop for sale.
Do we have a second on that amendment? I have a question too, but before we can go any further, we need to, at least we should get a second on this amendment. Okay, it's been seconded by Catherine Dawson. Now, would you care to go to the microphone, please?
Lucinda Hope, Lancaster Hill Road. If the definition of seller does not include jewelry store, then it kind of is in contrast to the rest of this ordinance. Thank you.
Comment was that if it didn't also include jewelry stores like the one that is in downtown Tilton, then that could be a problem. And then I guess maybe that is in there, okay.
No, it's not in the amendment.
No, it's not in the amendment. But it is in the original. Yes, yes. Okay.
Yes, this is Karen Johnson from Ruby Lane in Tilton. And I just want to add on for where the definition of seller is where that seller, is the person who comes under that definition of seller, where that word is used, that S should be capitalized. In other words, where it refers to the seller as the person coming into the pawn shop to sell an item to the pawn shop, that seller should be capitalized, where seller is used as another
At this point,
form.
however, on the floor for discussion is the amendment that Bob has presented. And since we cannot have any amendments to amendments, we need to vote this particular one up and down. And if anybody has it, well, let me read this one more time before we go on. He wanted the letter K. A seller is anyone to bring an item into an approved pawnbroker or pawn shop for sale. Scott.
Scott Davis. A question I have, was this brought in front of an attorney before this item came in front of us? Was it reviewed?
Chief?
I know detectives actually work with the county attorney in Manchester, Concord, and some of the other cities to put this language together. So I think it was a cooperative effort between detectives from Manchester, Concord, and the county attorneys to look at it, Scott. So we didn't bring it to LGC to look at it, but we worked with other towns and cities on it. So.
A concern that I have as a citizen is that if we pass something today where there's no attorneys here, and change a warrant article, that possibly this could be an arrest of somebody that's bringing something in to sell, And could there therefore be thrown out on a technicality that what we passed today is not necessarily lawful, what we're doing? And that's a concern I have, that I don't want to see the town in a lawsuit just because we passed something here and we don't have oversight from an attorney overlooking this warrant article.
Right. For us, it would just be a violation, so it would be a fine to the store that isn't keeping the records or holding the item for 7 days. All the stores that this includes, we've spoken with them, and they didn't have any problems with it. I know that it did come up, the difference between a consignment store and a pawnbroker. We only have one store that's functioning as a pawnbroker right now, which means you bring an item in there and they lend you money, and until you pay it back, they hold the item. And they would come under that RSA and meet the definition. So the ordinance is really to address pawnbrokers and pawn shops. That's our intent, not necessarily consignment stores.
Jerry?
Yes, Jerry Davis from Tilton, 28 Prosser Street. All these stolen articles in that, Chief, sometimes it gets buried too. And I say to myself, the cops and everybody's doing a good job, and I say the police department's doing a good job. Let it go through it, pass it.
Deborah Shepherd.
It's like if you need to call on someone, that's why I don't have a mic on. It's up to the moderator. You call on her.
I pointed at her. We got several more coming down to use the same mic, so just leave it on for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Deborah Shepherd, 29 Winter Street, new resident of Tilton. We bought the house in May. We had something stolen from us in June. I went to all the pawn shops looking for the stuff. I think this is great. If you come in to sell something, they take a picture of your ID. It might, convince some people not to try to sell stolen things and not to break in and steal things. But I want to thank the chief. He did a great job. We recovered our item, and I'm all for this. Thank you.
Microphone one.
Juliet Harvey, 66 Dunlop. I just want to second that. I think it's a pretty standard amendment. I know they're doing it around other cities, and it's going to help out the police and cut down on crime. Thanks.
Ken Norton, East Main Street. This may not be absolutely perfect, but let's not overthink this, and the spirit and the intent with which it is to get stores to cooperate with the police department. Thank you.
Microphone two.
My concern about this amendment is that within the article as written, it references jewelry stores and other secondhand dealers, but this specifically talks about pawnbrokers and pawn shops, which seems to me to leave a huge loophole in, if your definition is going to be the seller is somebody bringing only to pawnbrokers or a pawn shop, then you can take it to a consignment shop, a jewelry shop, or anywhere else and not be subject to these requirements.
Microphone one.
Helen Hanks, I've been studying the statute as this is up here, and it does, RSA 398 references a licensing board and really speaks to pawn shops. So I appreciate that our ordinance covers other areas, and I would recommend that we adjust K so it includes the things we recommend in our ordinance. Coupled with, I worked for the Department of Corrections the last 10 years. I think this is a good deterrent to prevent burglary and crime. It is only going up. That's what's going on, so I commend our chief and the team to think about ways that Tilton is not going to be an area where people can exchange stolen goods. Thank you.
At this point, all discussion really should be specifically on the amendment, even though a lot of the comments are on the original article. However, at this point, I would like to go ahead, unless anyone else has something they want to specifically say about this amendment, If you are, Pat, that's fine, go right ahead.
Yeah, Pat Clark, I would just like to ask if Bob Hardy would be interested in making an amendment to his wording, so we can cut through it.
You cannot amend an amendment. That's part of the rules here, so we can't change it at this point. So let's vote this up or down, and then if someone else has a different amendment, we can address that, and then we can get back to the main article. Seeing no other speakers. Bob?
I'd just like to clarify why I said just pawnbroker and pawn shop. Those are the only two shops that are defined in the definition, Pat and everybody else. The jewelry store and the consignment shop are in the later part, but they're not defined in this. I feel that we should also define what we're looking at. This article clearly recognizes just what's defined.
Okay. All those in favor of approving this amendment to the main article, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. I am in question. So therefore, I'm going to ask people to stand and hold up your voter cards. All those in favor, please stand in favor of this amendment. The amendment is up on the screen in red, which is the definition of a seller. This is the definition of a seller.
I am a resident.
And Dale County.
Those opposed to the motion, please stand up and hold up your voter cards. Hard to believe, thank you, you can sit down. Hard to believe that the noes were so very vocal. According to this count, I have 67 in favor of the amendment, 27 not in favor. So at this point, I declare that the amendment has passed as written. Now, this particular amendment is actually going into the definition, which is in the handbook, but it's not part of the original. So it's covered by the original motion. So it would have to be then, the original article here, back on Article 5, is to see if the town will vote to adopt the Tilton pawnbroker ordinance in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 398. And in fact, what you just did was to have amended the portion of it, of the actual ordinance, which is currently in your town report. Chief, you have something else?
The only thing I'd add, Mr. Moderator, is that, you know, we do include jewelry stores here, and so I think I wouldn't want to limit it to only pawnbrokers and pawn shops. We've spoken with K Jewelers, they're on board with this as well, when they do take jewelry in. That's one of the other places that we could, you know, potentially have a problem. So I think that the detectives put in there pawnbrokers, pawn shops, jewelry stores, and any other business that purchase, trade, receive merchandise for loans or profit. Our intent with that is to get a record of these types of items being brought into jewelry stores, pawn shops, and pawnbrokers. Pawnbroker is the only location that's identified in the RSA by which they take items and then loan money for those items, and we only have one store. So I don't know if that helps you, but that would be my only suggestion.
However, the article as written here does say the Tilton Pawnbroker Ordinance, so that would refer directly to the ordinance that was written. So are you suggesting right now that some additional language changes need to be made to the ordinance itself, or did you wish to change any wording in Article 5?
No, not to the ordinance itself, but possibly to the amendment, just to include jewelry stores. I don't know if that's possible. Or businesses
let me call on David here. David?
Dave Fox, Tilton, 98 High Street in Tilton. I'm all for this, and Chief, I'll have to drive the speed limit because what I'm about to say is because of all the questions, and we're a bunch of novices here, I think maybe this should be put aside until it can be reworded and reconsidered.
Okay, there was a suggestion. I'm going to let our next speaker come.
Lauren Nother, East Main Street. I think it's fine the way it is. I think the ordinance is a great idea. We may not have it exactly right, but we can tweak it if the police decide it needs tweaking or something happens in court that we need to react to it because of an interpretation by a judge. I would like to amend the amendment to what the chief just said. To include jewelry, the way he read it, that his detectives had put together.
Have you put anything in writing yet? What we can do is, I think, you have now amended the actual ordinance, but not this particular article or the title of the article. And if, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Lauren works in the Attorney General's office and is a lawyer. So,
although I have to be clear.
You have to have some credence, though, I guess.
I have to be clear that I'm not speaking on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General.
I understand that very clearly. In the meantime, Nancy?
I was just going to call the question that we voted on it.
Catherine?
Well, I'm in a microphone, I think everybody can hear me.
Oh, come on.
I think everybody is hung up on 398 as it pertains to defining what a pawnbroker or pawn shop is. That's all it's doing. It's telling you what is that. This article includes pawn shop, pawnbroker, jewelry store, and secondhand dealer. If somebody has a fur coat stolen, where's it going to go? It's probably going to go maybe to a pawn shop, or it's going to go to a consignment shop, which would be a secondhand dealer. So, jewelry store, I just sold some of my jewelry. What if I'd stolen it? If it's not included in this, then we don't have any teeth. So if it's not included in the definition of what a seller is bringing it to, So don't get hung up on 398 just because it's telling us, the state's telling us what is a pawnbroker or pawn shop. This definition needs to include jewelry store or secondhand dealer. We're leaving out half of where our stolen stuff goes.
Okay, Lauren?
I guess I would move to amend it just to add the word "and jewelry store" or jewelry business. So it would read, add item K. A seller is anyone bringing an item into an approved pawnbroker or pawn shop or jewelry store or jewelry business for sale.
Basically then, what Lauren is proposing is you now have in your ordinance the amendment up there, which is K, and she is suggesting a change to K, the wording in K, to include jewelry store and jewelry business. Is that clear? I will get that, if we get a second to that.
Second.
Lauren? Go right ahead.
May I renew my amendment?
You may read it, and then we need to get a copy of it signed, and then we'll give it to Kathy so she can put it up on the screen.
Seller is anyone bringing an item into an approved pawnbroker or of an approved pawn shop, pawnbroker, jewelry store, and secondhand dealer. Or secondhand dealer. For sale.
Okay, if you would get that all written and then sign that and give it a copy to the town clerk and then also to Kathy, is that, once we get the thing, actually the full thing rewritten, I will read it one more time. Yes, Scott. Microphone 2.
Mr. Moderator, a question that I have, and this goes to the chief. Where do the people who advertise in the paper that they're coming in to stay set up at a Hilton hotel and they're going to buy gold and jewelry, where does this fall into this? I mean, is that a loophole that they can come into town, sell, and they don't have to abide by any of this?
No, they'd have to apply for a hawker and peddler's license, and then this would include them.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry Davis, would you like to come to microphone 1, please?
Jerry Davis, 28 Process Street. Chief, I go along somewheres where I find something and I call you. You know I'm honest and I record you. And I have found stuff and I told you to come see this. So, how many people has got metal detectors who you wanted to use? I said, I want to train your boys. He says, no, I'm gonna record you, and I do find something, I'm gonna come, have the boys come and look at it. Thank you.
Yes.
Stanley Brown, Caleb Hill. I was wondering if there's been an assessment on how this will impact the IT department at the police station in storing these files, how long they'll be stored, and what possible issues might happen with that.
Yeah, we get them now in Excel spreadsheets, and we review them by serial number and by items, and that's how we solve a lot of our burglaries. We've solved countless burglaries over the last couple of years already getting this material, but it's all on the honor system. It wouldn't change how we do business now. Detectives go through these lists each morning and just see if there's anything that matches any of the burglaries we've had that week. And IT is telling me we have plenty of storage for it.
Yeah. And that's why I asked, because an Excel spreadsheet would be a lot less data than pictures. If we're requiring pictures, do we store those pictures? And for how long?
Yeah, we do, and we have plenty of storage. We typically would only keep them probably up to a year, as long as we think it might connect to a burglary.
Back to microphone 2.
Dave Fox, 98 High Street, Tilton. Chief, now that we've added that second-hand dealer and this cost of consignment shops, would you recommend a dollar value be put in here so that we could help clarify and not have to consider things like throwing like weed and that type of thing? Can we put a dollar value in to help clarify this?
Would you like to respond?
I know that for detectives with cases, we've been able to, if an item is stolen, regardless of the dollar value, if we can prove that it came from your house, it's hugely important to us, even if it's only worth $1. So I'd hate to put something in there that would kind of box us in.
Anything else on this right now? I will get the amendment up in just a moment. In the meantime, it is now 9:48. I'm going to ask if there's anyone in here now who has not yet voted on Article number 2. Is there anyone who has not voted? Okay, then I declare the polls closed. I'm asking our two assistant moderators, Helen Hanks and Vinnie, will start and begin the counting. In the meantime, we're going to take about a 2-minute recess until I can get the proposed changes on Article or Section K, Item K, on this definition, and we'll get that up, and then we will get that voted on and then move on. Yes. Yes.
Why don't we get a vote on Article number 3?
That will be the next article as soon as we dispose of this one. Right away. Article 3, by the way, is going to be a ballot vote.
There's no doubt. That kid has braved me so much in the last 3 weeks. All right, Jerry. You staying here for a minute? And that's why I'm asking you. Your fancy bag. Like Disneyland. That's more than any coach bag I ever put in.
We've got the wording up here for the change to Section K. What I would like to do is, unless there's anyone else who would want to address this, if you take a look up here, you will see that the underlined section up here is what has been added. Can't read over my head. A pawn shop, pawnbroker, jewelry store, or second-hand dealer, or loan at the end. Any questions on this? All those in favor of amending Article number 5 in the definitions of the pawnbroker ordinance to the language that's up here, would you please signify by saying aye? Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, now we're back to the original motion. On Article 5, all those in favor of Article 5, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Article 5 passes. Our next item for discussion is going to be to go back to Article 3. We will have the results of the voting here in a couple of minutes. On Article 2, in the meantime, we can go back to Article number 3. Article number 3, to see if the residents of the town of Tilton will vote to rescind pay-issue throw bags and to go to voluntary recycling. This is being moved by Selectman LaPlante.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to bring Article 3 before for discussion.
It has been so moved and seconded by Joe Jessamine. Okay, this was actually brought forth by petition. Is there someone who would like to speak for this?
I'll defer this to Scott Davis for discussion.
Mr. Moderator, I stand in front of you. I'm a member of the Tilton Recycling Committee, and I speak on behalf of them, not myself. As you entered today's meeting, we passed out information. Everyone should have got one. If you didn't, let us know, and we'll get one to you. Last year, Article 10 was passed at town meeting, which started the curbside single-stream recycling program, and that is funded by the pay-as-you-throw bag program. Last year, when we came in front of the body, our goal was to reduce the tonnage going into the incinerator by 30%. When we had looked at all the information and data that we had from other towns that had started a program such as that, they were able to achieve about a 30% reduction. I stand in front of you today to let you know, since the program in September got fully implemented, we have reduced the amount of residential trash going to the incinerator by 50%, which is a great number. And that in turn has reduced the amount that we pay. We pay $66.80, and I think it might have been reduced now, maybe $1 or so. But we pay $66.80 to the incinerator for every ton of trash that's brought in there. And if you look on the back of your sheet, you're going to see during the last 6 months, we've saved the taxpayers a little over $20,000 on tipping fees. The pay-as-you-throw, when we consider the pay-as-you-throw, and this article talks about doing away with pay-as-you-throw, the pay-as-you-throw portion, when we buy the bags, there's an $87,000 contract that's up front to pay for the single-stream curbside recycling contract. That's the truck that comes and picks up the bins at everyone's home with the recyclable materials. That includes those bins. That contract is $87,000, and that is paid for through the bag sales, through the pay-as-you-throw. The pay-as-you-throw is used as a mechanism in order to force people to recycle. And that's been proven here that we're at 50%, which is a great number. One thing, and we as a committee wanted to be right up front with all the people, there is more of a cost when you look at the homeowner as far as the taxpayer on their property, as far as buying a bag. If say a house is buying one bag a week, one large bag a week, that equates to $78 in a year. If it was paid through that same contract, this year was paid through taxation, and I can refer to the finance officer on this, that would equate to about $16 for a $200,000 home if we had it on our taxes. And that's only because the commercial sector of our tax base in town is so large that when you're paying, and someone came up to me a little while ago, this curbside single-stream recycling program is only on the residential side. So don't get it confused that the commercial entities in town are participating in this, because they're not. This is just residential. So keep that in mind. So we have such a large base on the tax base for the commercial side. That's why there's a reduction. But I think that, we wanted to bring it as far as talk to the people. The program's only been going 6 months. We wanted to hear what people had to say, and we'd appreciate comments. Thank you.
Before we go any further, I'm going to get the results from Article 2, and then I'll read those, and then we will resume discussion on Article 3. Okay, the number of voters present was 112. The number of votes cast was 110. 90 voted in the affirmative, 20 in the negative. 1 second, let me get the calculator out here. Don't say anything the fact that I used to teach math. 90 divided by the total of 110 voting is 81%. The bond issue passes. I so declare it. The moderator is supposed to always be neutral, but I live on Caleb Hill Road, and I'm very thankful. I'm at the top, the very top of the hill. Thank you for counting those ballots. Now, I'm going to recognize you next year.
Peter Fogg, 10 Ruby Lane. Both garbage and recycling trucks are especially trucks. My concern, I believe we pay $110,000 a year for weekly garbage pickup, and we're paying $87,000 a year for the recycle truck to go every other week. I'm trying to figure out why the recycle truck isn't closer to half the cost of the garbage truck. The other concern I have is, what was the net effect last year when we went to the purple bags with the curbside pickup? Did we pay more in taxes overall or less?
Is there anyone here that can answer that question?
I would refer to Tim Pearson.
Did you hear the question clearly, Tim?
Yes, I did. Yeah, because the $87,000 is paid out of a recycling fund, which is funded by the bag sales. Our net taxes that we're paying for are not affected by that amount. However, we have seen a reduction in our solid waste delivered to the incinerator as a result of recycling, and that's been about a $20,000 savings through the last 6 months. Say about $16,000 or a little more than 3 cents per thousand on the tax rate so far, just from the start of the program.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Peter Fogg, 10 Ruby Lane. So the sales of purple bags covered the $87,000 or last year's the $45,000, whatever it cost for the curbside.
That's correct. We actually are on track to sell about $105,000 in 2014 if the bag sales continue at the rate they've been going, and that is more than adequate to cover the cost of the residential recycling curbside collection.
Okay, microphone 2.
Nancy Trousdale, 394 Caleb Hill Road. And after you gave the results from the vote of Article 2, I just wanted to vote to protect my vote, or the vote.
You would like to what? You want to protect your vote?
Yes.
So what you would like to do is to move to restrict consideration of warrant Article 2.
Yes.
Okay. Moved by Nancy Trousdale to restrict reconsideration on warrant Article number 2, and seconded by, was that Pat Constantino?
Yes.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. I believe that is unanimous. Very good, thank you. We'll go back to Article number 3, please.
Dave Fox, 98 High Street, Tilton, New Hampshire. Prior to instituting the pay-as-you-throw and the curbside pickup, we had voluntary recycling, and that worked at a rate of about 7%. So to go from 7% to 50% shows you how effective this program is. In addition to that, this program's only been in effect for 6 months, so many of our summer residents and many folks haven't even had the chance to get involved in this yet. to remove this program before it's fully implemented seems unwise to me, and I hope we'll continue to support the curbside recycling.
Microphone one.
Ken Norton, East Main Street. Point of information, I am completely confused who is bringing this and why. But
Okay, yes, it has been by a petition. It was put here by petition. And at this point, when I asked if there was someone here who wanted to speak for the motion, which is what you normally do, Scott did speak, and I did not hear yet anyone tell us why we needed support this motion.
For the motion.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak for this particular motion?
Can I call the question?
Theoretically, you don't call the question after asking questions or speaking, but I think at this point we'll go ahead and do that. I will call the question. All those in favor of voting for Article? Well, we can't. This is a ballot vote. It's a ballot vote. I have a petition been duly signed by 5 voters of the town of Tilton who have asked for this to be a ballot vote. So this time we're going to start with the folks on this side. By the way, we can get this done in about 5 minutes if everyone will move right along.
Please clarify what a yes vote means.
I will. To see if the town of Tilton will vote to rescind the pay-as-you-throw bags and go back to voluntary recycling. It is my assumption that the people who submitted this article wanted to do away with the pay-as-you-throw bags. So if you voted yes, you would be suggesting that the town would do away with pay-as-you-throw bags and go back to not having to do as much sorting, but being able to put out regular trash bags on the curb. Yes, Ken.
Point of information again, if no one who signed the petition spoke in favor of this, do we have to move this motion forward?
No, however, there are alternatives available. One could be to table it and leave it on the table. Another one would be, which is in my moderator's rules, if you would take a look here, number 13.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone indefinitely this article.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone this article indefinitely and seconded. It is the, excuse me?
The question was already called on the article. Can you postpone it? Can you take a vote on the question?
Well, I'm the one who decided to call the question. I did not accept Ken's calling it, which means we're ending debate. At this point, I think it seems rather obvious with the people here today that they don't really want to spend the time voting on this, and that so far we haven't had anyone speaking really in favor of doing away with the bags. I would just as soon almost do away with the ballot vote, but we've already had a petition signed, so I think we either have to do one of two things, either postpone this indefinitely, and we probably shouldn't, only because of the proper procedures. So let's go ahead and get the vote over. We can do it in 5 minutes and move on, okay? So let's vote. So folks on this side over here, please go through first. Have them punch the card, go right through. We'll get this done in no time at all and be on to the next item. reminder, a no vote means keep the recycling. A yes vote is to get rid of the plastic purple bags. A no vote means keep the purple bags.
Take out the papers and the trash. Oh, you don't get no speaking cash. If you don't spend it, you take out. You ain't no rock, no, take the act. Just finish it. Let's see that, let's follow that. Yeah, that guy will take the side. Oh, you don't know about it now. Take the act. You just put on your coated hat. And what you say about that?
Let's have the rest of the folks get in line, please. checklist don't seem to have a line. If you have not voted yet, would you please go do so right now? I'm gonna close the polls in 1 minute. 1 minute. Anyone who needs to vote, please go vote right now.
No, please, keep it.
Last call on voting. Okay, I declare the polls closed. While our system moderators are tallying up the results, let's go on to Article number 5, number 6. To see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 100 License Regulations, Town of Tilton Ordinance on Hawkers, Peddlers, and Itinerant Vendors, adopted on March 8, 1990, to allow for criminal background checks. A criminal background check. To be moved by Catherine Dawson. Catherine?
I'd like to make a motion to move Article 6 to the floor for discussion, please.
I'll second that.
Okay, right in time, Jerry.
Seconded by Jerry Davis. Catherine, would you like to speak to this?
Actually, I'd like to defer discussion to Joyce Lowell, our town administrator. She did all the work on that.
Okay, Joyce?
Thank you. The town back in, what did I say here, 1990, had adopted a Hawkers and Peddlers ordinance, which we use quite a bit because of our location and motorcycle weekend and everything. We do get a lot of hawkers and peddlers. And you know the saying that towns can only do what the state says you can do, which is we have the hawkers and peddlers, but we want to add a provision that would allow us to require criminal background checks. So that's why we need to have that put in here. There's 3 levels of criminal background checks. There's just right through our police department. We have a form we can request. You can also go through the New Hampshire State Police. They have a form. And also if you want to get an FBI, because if you want to get something that's outside of the state or local, you have to go through the FBI. They have very specific wording in their, in order to give us that information. So by you allowing us to add this provision, the selectmen will work with our town attorney and with the state police who's in charge of these things, state police individual, to make sure that we have the wording that we need so that we can legally do criminal background checks.
Any questions, comments?
Marjorie Bonneville, Silver Lake Road. I have a question. You don't have the ordinance in here, do you, to read? I just want to know, does this include all the people who are setting up and selling at the farmer's market in Tilton? There's an awful lot of vendors there.
Typically, the craft fairs that are like at the Tanger, the craft fairs, they have to get hawkers and peddlers. Farmers markets are exempt if they're selling their own, the fruit of their own labors. They're exempt from hawkers and peddlers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mike, too.
My name is Peter Spear, in Silver Lake Road. I'd like to know whether or not this criminal background check would be revenue neutral. Is it going to cost the town additional money for these checks, or will it be revenue neutral?
Yes, please. Yeah.
We charge them for that. We charge the hawkers and peddlers for it. It's included in the license.
Is it possible,
So if they're charged, the peddlers and hawkers are being charged, it should be revenue neutral.
do you have the ability, if these, within this amendment or this ordinance, do you have the ability, if the criminal background checks go, the cost of them goes up, to increase the cost of hawkers and peddlers license?
Yes, we do.
Microphone one.
Ken Norton, East Main Street. Can you explain how this would be used if it comes back and somebody has a DWI? What does that mean? If they had a simple assault 20 years ago, what does that mean?
Who can respond to that?
That man up there.
Yeah, for us, to answer Ken's question, if we had someone who was a felon and they were going to be going door to door in town, we might make a determination that we're going to reject the application for a license to sell. And a little bit of history behind it, there was a company that had door-to-door book sales, and someone had actually going door to door, went in and raped and murdered a woman. And this was long before a lot of towns and cities had these type of ordinances. So that's just the history behind it of why we try to do it. And, you know, we do take it serious. We care about who's coming to your door in the middle of the night to sell you something. And that's why we want to have some of these safeguards in place. And if we felt that was a concern, we would have no problem rejecting the license. But we're not really interested in if you lost your driver's license, 10 years ago. I hope that helps, Ken.
Any other questions?
Judy Tilton, since this was adopted in 1990, how many times have the crafters at Tanger actually, has this been enforced at Tanger and they've paid?
Pat, can you answer that?
I believe this is the second year now that we have charged the crafters at Tanger for hawkers and peddlers. We have revenue from hawkers and peddlers, a license from the crafters that are not selling the fruit of their own labors, yes.
Any other questions? One more question, yes?
Stanley Brown, Caleb Hill. I have a question. Would this be a requirement for all licensing? And the depth of the background check, will that be part of the licensing? Because like we talked about, you could ask for, or how is it defined in the law itself? Because there's a question of discrimination of whether or not we move forward with one or not the other. will it be an FBI background check or not? Because that's a consideration of people's personal privacy and how far we would move forward with this. Or would it be someone's decision as to whether what we do with it, what we make them do, and then who would make that decision?
Joyce?
This is something that we would confer with our legal counsel to make sure that we're doing, you know, what we're supposed to be doing. That would be our protection.
Wouldn't we do that before we ask the town to vote on it? And have these outlined as to exactly what is needed for each license?
Because it's a case-by-case instance.
Right, but then that would be someone's opinion that I think this person should get a background check. And as an example, I went to Bike Week, I think it was last year, the Hells Angels they were having t-shirt sales. And you're a little bit amazed by that. And part of it is that could be a good thing or a bad thing, but wouldn't it be discriminatory to say, I'm going to background check you, but not someone else? Is it part, and that's my original question, is this part of the licensing procedure, and is it standardized that everyone, or does someone choose who should and who shouldn't be background checked?
Okay, Catherine.
We currently have a hawkers and peddlers application. The selectmen approve it and the chief approves it. The board of selectmen, along with the chief, will determine wording for that application. Who is going to be subject to a background check. It hasn't been decided yet. I can tell you my opinion is this is mainly geared at hawkers and peddlers who are going to be traveling door to door. Hawkers and peddlers in the stationary position doesn't pose as much threat as somebody knocking on your door or selling ice cream to our children. But again, it's got to be determined by the board of selectmen and the chief. It'll be written into the application, so somebody coming into town who wants to apply for hawkers and peddlers can readily look at that and say, oh, okay, if I'm going to be selling ice cream in neighborhoods, then I'm going to be subject to a background check. If I'm going to be traveling door to door selling encyclopedias, if that's going to happen again, I'm going to be subject to a background check. So we clearly spelled out the application, so it's not discriminatory. They can decide before they apply for that whether or not they want to apply.
Now, this isn't turning into a debate, but if you've got one more statement, please make it.
I just want to clarify my original question was, will it be a requirement of the licensing, or will it, you could possibly, and that's the distinction that can cause discrimination. Because somebody has to make a determination on whether that person should be checked or not, or is it standard?
Yeah, I think your point is well made. I'm going to let Catherine make one more final response, and then I'd like to move on.
Well, again, it will be in the application. So the determination is in the application. If I'm coming into town for hawkers and peddlers, I can look at that and I will readily know, oh, I'm going to be subject to a background check. I may choose to go forward or may choose not to hawk and peddle in Tilton.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's go to the vote. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 100 License Regulations, Town of Tilton Ordinance for Hawkers, Peddlers, and Itinerant Vendors, adopted March 8, 1990, to allow for a criminal background check. Those in favor of Article number 6, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. I declare Article 6 has passed. Article 7. The results on Article 3, which was to do away with the plastic recycling bags. There's a total votes cast of 101. 101. Those voting in the affirmative, 22. Those voting in the negative, 79. The motion loses, is defeated. I so declare. Yes.
I'm Marjorie Bonneville. I would like to make a motion to restrict consideration of the vote of Article number 3.
It has been moved by Marjorie Bonneville to restrict reconsideration on warrant article number 3, and seconded by Ms. Duncan. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
Excuse me?
I would just like to make one more comment after you take the vote.
All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, which means that it could never be brought back up at this meeting, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Restricting reconsideration of article number 3 passes, and I so declare.
If I may have just one more minute to, just as chairman of the Recycle Committee, I would just like to thank all the citizens of the town for the hard work that they put into making this program so successful. And I think that we will be a model for other towns in the state to see how well we've done with it. So just a great big thank you.
Warrant article number 7. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost items included in the July 1, 2014 to July 30th, 2017 collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and the NEPBA Local 29 Tilton Police Union, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year or portion thereof, estimated increases for the fiscal years July 1 to December 31 of 2014 would be $26,141. From December 31st, 2015, January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015 would be $47,510. January 1, 2016 to December 31st, 2016 would be $18,713. And January 1 of 2017 to June 30th, 2017 would be $8,950. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $26,141 for the current fiscal year 2014, such sum representing additional costs attributable to the increase in the salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels in accordance with the most recent collective bargaining agreement. This appropriation is not in the operating budget and has been recommended by both the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. And this is, again, will be a secret ballot vote. And we will do that as soon as we're ready to move on with the vote. That was submitted by petition. Are there anyone, to move the article? Pat?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 7 to the floor for discussion.
Okay, it's been moved by Pat Constantino, seconded by Jerry Davis. Is there any discussion? Yeah.
This year is the new contract, and the wage aspect of it. There were 7 employees of the police department that we did a wage adjustment effective June 2014. We brought some new officers up to a amenable step, and taken into consideration those 7 wage adjustments over a 3-year period, the wage increase is 7.56% over the 3-year period, without that those 7 officers being brought up to the wage adjustment in June of this year. Over a 3-year period, it's a 4.27%. other than some language changes. The biggest effect in the contract this year, other than the wages, the 26,000 is just for the half a year, and then the next year you see 47,000, that's for a full year, and then another half a year for 2016, 18,713. That's a full year, I'm sorry, but it's a less percentage. And then January 1 to January 30th is the half a year. It's a smaller percentage on the third year. The other major impact on the contract for the employees, the bargaining unit, would be the health insurance, and they are contributing in 2015 14.5%, and starting January 1st, 2015, will be required to pay 15 3/4, and then effective July 1, 2016, they will be required to pay 16.5% of the total insurance premium by way of pre-tax payroll. Other than that, it's just basically language changes and overtime and detail and that kind of thing in the contract. Do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions, comments? Want to speak for or against? Not seeing anyone, I'll call the question.
That's because it takes 4 minutes to get over there. It's like driving on Caleb Hill.
Yes, microphone 2.
Nancy Trousdale, Caleb Hill. I just wanted to speak in support of this. I believe that not going down the whole idea of, they've got the toughest job and all that, but we do need to attract and keep quality employees in this area. I think we've got a great group of guys and girls right now working in the police station and protecting us and taking care of us, and we need to keep them around. And I think the only way to keep good people around is to pay them and add to their benefits if needed. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else coming to the microphone to speak, I'm going to go ahead and say that the polls are now open. Just head up as soon as you're ready. And as soon as we can get this through, we'll go right on to the next one. In case there are any questions, if you vote yes, you are voting to approve spending $26,141 for this year.
Thank you. Drag it out too long. Yeah, me too.
Well, that says something about your character.
Okay, and in one more minute, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. So please, if you haven't yet voted on Article number 7, would you please get your ballot? Article 7, please vote. One more minute. Okay. Polls are closed. Please count them up. We'll go ahead and start on with Article number 8. Article number 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of constructing a meeting room space on the stage located in the upstairs of Town Hall. This is being moved by Catherine Dawson. Catherine Dawson moves Article number 8 for discussion. Seconded by Jerry Davis. Catherine, would you like to speak to Article 8?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of you are going to look at this and realize it's the article we had before you last year. And the Board of Selectmen listened to you, and we went forward for 2013 and the first part of this year. It was suggested that we use do our attorney-client and non-publics in the evening. We had a large number of attorney-client meetings. Attorneys work during the day. And I think we all know if we have them come out after hours, that can be very expensive. We spent countless time squeezing 6 to 10 people into a very tiny office space, no place to sit down for an hour and a half or whatever. We had to ask the sewer administrators, assistant, to stop working and leave her desk for meetings. A lot of times we can't control when a non-public or attorney-client comes up. It depends on what walks through the door. So here we are again, and we'd like to take a space that's just being used to put stuff on and turn it into a non-public attorney-client meeting room. We have gotten some estimates. They're not hard, fast estimates. And it comes to approximately $8,500 to close to $10,000 to convert the space. It's electrical work. It is construction, and it is hooking that room and connecting it into our fire alarm system. I think it's very necessary. So, anybody have any questions, like the moderator, we'll try to answer them.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Davis.
Scott Davis. I brought this up at the budget hearing. How are we going to address handicapped situations? Because we had the town hall for ADA, and I brought it up and I'm wondering if they addressed that at all.
Catherine.
I called the Governor's Council and ADA, and they have not filled a vacant position there that can advise us on that. So I called the federal government in Washington, D.C., and I talked to a lady down there. Because this is a space that we can duplicate the same service in another area, if on the off chance somebody is handicapped, we can have a non-public, like I said, in that small office space, or ask the administrative assistant to leave. It's not something I'd want to do regularly, but we could. Because we're not providing primary services, land use, taxes, register your car, finance, et cetera, we do not have to have it ADA accessible.
Any other questions or comments? Microphone 2.
Dave Fox, 98 High Street. The Budget Committee is opposed to this, and if somebody from the Budget Committee could speak why, I'd like to hear it.
Moderator recognizes Mr. Scanlon.
Okay, let's see. We had 4 voted no and 3 voted yes towards that. When this was brought to us, it was few hours before our meeting, when we had to finally decide on it, there wasn't enough information. And the other questions is why the non-public sessions could just be scheduled after 3 p.m. when that room would be vacant anyway. One of the other questions was, this $10,000 does not include anything for electricity, heating, ventilation, or air conditioning, which we know it gets really hot up there. And the other thing was handicap access. So all in all, we don't have a final amount on it. And that would cover, I think, most of it. I don't know if there's anybody else that was in favor of it that would like to speak from the budget committee.
Yes, sir.
Ralph Sellers, 299 Sanborn Road. Last time I had a need to go down to the selectmen's meeting, this meeting was held upstairs. And there were sufficient people there that the hall couldn't hold many more than the seats that are here. But my problem is to go to the selectmen's meetings, which are being held upstairs, you have to go upstairs, and handicapped people wouldn't be able to attend upstairs.
Pam, would you like to respond, please?
There is a lift that takes you up from the first floor to the second floor, Mr. Sellers. So it is the second floor is handicap accessible. What we're talking about is enclosing the stage area and making that into a conference room, non-public area so that it would be closed off to the public, so we could go in and have a meeting, a private meeting with the attorneys in non-public sessions, that people wouldn't be in and out, and we wouldn't have to ask the civil administrative to leave because she works right around the corner. We wouldn't have to ask the administrative assistant to leave her office so that we can use her office downstairs. There have been times when attorney-clients during the day, we've gone in up to the senior center because there's been meetings already at the town hall, and we couldn't disrupt what was going on there. Either way, we have to disrupt the office and the staff in any event if there's an attorney-client, particularly an attorney-client. We keep stressing that, and Lord knows we've had enough attorney-client meetings for a lifetime this past year. So that's what we're referring to. We're closing off the stage, making a wall, including electric and heat. That's included in the estimate, and we have several estimates for the work from several contractors, and they range from $8,500 to $10,000.
Okay, microphone 2.
You said the estimates do include the electric and heat, then why is the budget committee under the impression that they do not?
Mr. Moderator? Like John said, we had the information. We did not have a lot of the information when we went to the public hearing. They had gotten it hours before they were going to vote on it. So in defense of the budget committee, they really didn't have a lot to vote on when it actually went to them. We got the information shortly thereafter of all the estimates. We were in the process of it. Now we have all the information.
I am uncomfortable just going with a round number. I'd rather see some harder numbers than to just give a blanket proposal to, and we think it'll cost X number of dollars. I think that we need harder numbers than this to go forward.
Microphone 2.
Moderator, I'm confused.
Scott Davis.
Scott Davis, sorry about that. I'll get into here sooner or later. I'd like to ask a question. We're sitting here on the March 15th, 2014. On the town's website, they have 2 RFPs that don't close till March 22nd for this exact it says for the construction and for the electrical work on this stage area. And we're throwing out numbers. Why would we be throwing out numbers if there's an RFP, if someone's going to bid on the work, and they're hearing numbers out there? I'm a little confused with whether we have the numbers or whether they're still out there, so on and so forth.
Catherine?
I went out and got estimates for this project, not using an RFP. So the figure of 850 to 10,000 is based on those estimates. Based on those estimates I received from contractors who looked at it and said, well, you're going to need this, you're going to need a new fuse box because the fuse box we have is large enough to hold more electric. You're going to need 4 lights, 2 fans, et cetera, based on that information, and so that we would have more to choose from. I wrote an RFP, selected, approved it, and we sent it out. That's why you see that on the website, because we're always looking for a lower price. The estimates I got are where we came with the $10,000 figure. Any construction project, and anyone here who has had a construction project and gotten an estimate knows that sometimes, you know, when they're in the process of building, they find, let's just call them anomalies, and it can increase your estimates. What we're asking you to do is to approve this construction, which basically is not to exceed $10,000. It could come under that, and I think it will, because we sent out, I think there's what, 26 RFPs.
Any other questions, comments? I didn't see whose hand was up first. Let me call him. Okay, Jane.
Jane Alden, town of Tilton, School Street. I'm a little confused too, and I'm speaking as Jane Alden, citizen, not Jane Alden Budget Committee. I go to all the selectmen's meetings, and it was my understanding when this whole issue first came up that this was to be used because there were problems with confidentiality downstairs when the human services person was there, and that she probably would need a place to go. And I know that that's quite a legitimate concern. And also that there were special meetings with individuals. And now all of a sudden I'm hearing this is a selectmen's meeting room. And I guess I'm confused because I do attend almost all the selectmen's meetings. And they start around 4 o'clock for the most part. And that's after 3 o'clock when the sewer commission office is closed. I'm just curious as to when these non-publics take place, because they're taking place, usually if I get there around 4, they're before the meeting or after the meeting. I'd just like some clarification about how many attorney-client privilege meetings that you're having, let's say with them in a month. And if it's going to be just a selectmen's meeting room, or is it going to be for the use of anybody who needs a place to go privately? Thank you.
Pat, would you like to respond?
I can respond to that. Part of that is you're absolutely right, Jane. It started out as a combination selectmen room, non-public, human service, because sometimes the clientele that come in from the human services, they need a place to sit, and it's not, it's confidentiality, and when they're downstairs by the elevator door in the meeting room, it's open, and they can't have any type of discussion, and they have to use a room. So yes, that is one of the reasons, and it will be used for that if the need be. We've had several attorney-client meetings, and they're not posted because attorney-client meetings don't need to be posted. Just in the last 4 weeks, we've had 6 or 8 attorney-client meetings. Day before yesterday, we were sitting in Catherine Moses. We kicked her out and put her in the conference room for almost an hour. We were on a conference call with the lawyer. There were 5 selectmen in her room with the doors closed. And if anybody's been in her room with the door closed, the heat is just unbearable. And there were 5 of us standing around a desk and listening to the lawyer talk. And it happens a lot. that's why we're coming back for you this year, because in the last 6 months, we've borrowed a room from the Tilton School on occasion. We've used in the late afternoon the senior center, the lunchroom at the PD. We have no space to do any of this attorney-client at all. It has to be a safe environment where people can't go in and out. I get it. I hope I answered your question.
I think you have answered the question. Yes.
Heather Bishop Duncan. I was just wondering, this kind of bothers me that we're having all these meetings with lawyers. That's the first I've heard about it. Are these going to be a lot of meetings? I mean, on the average of a month, how many times a month do you need this special, quiet, non-public room to? Is it going to be something that we build now and then a year from now it's going to be used for storage or whatever? Or is this something that's going to be used on a weekly, if not daily basis?
I can rest assured it will be most used on a weekly, if not daily basis, because it can be used for other meetings as well. I mean, there's sewer commission, sometimes we have double meetings going on. It also can be used for a meeting, but primarily it's going to be for non-public meetings. And yes, just in the non-publics that we have, it'll be weekly. It'll be used. And welfare directors weekly, and sometimes the fire commission have non-public, and they meet 6 months at a time at the town hall. They'll be able to utilize it. Sometimes the planning board's downstairs, the budget's upstairs. We can use it. There's a lot of ways we can use it.
Scott.
Eric was ahead of me.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Eric Meyer, Tilton. Just a question, as a citizen, will the building of this room save the town $10,000 in attorney fees or in displaced wages from employees moving out of the conference room?
Is that a question anyone wants to answer?
Well, it depends on how much time you want to add to it, but certainly over a number of years, it would save the town money, because we're not going to pay twice as much for an attorney to come up after hours. But I mean, we're talking 10 years, 20 years.
Scott?
Mr. Moderator, Dennis,
Scott Davis.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, Scott Davis. Cindy, did you get that?
It's not me, it's the microphone.
Anyway, I'd like to ask the question, wouldn't it be more user-friendly for the small, where we used to have the selectmen's meetings downstairs, to put a wall up across there? I know the elevator's in back there, but that you could still have access to that room and make a non-public room just by putting up a wall, as opposed to doing electrical, heating, so on and so forth.
Catherine?
Planning board meets down there, and other committees meet down there as well. We have looked at putting a wall across there for other reasons, relocating the town clerk tax collector, for example. If you put a wall up, planning board, I've been there when they've had standing room only. You're going to reduce the size of that public meeting room. And
but in all
I
fairness,
hate to restrict that space. It's already a nice open space. We can use that for a lot of different things.
but in all fairness, couldn't you just leave the door open? I mean, it's no different than if you're standing in the hallway and you're at a meeting there in the planning board now. You're standing in the hall if the room's filled. Wouldn't it be no different, Catherine? Or Mr. Moderator, sorry.
Yes, Catherine.
There'd be a huge difference. Right now, the room is completely open. There's no small, doorway for the contractor helping, almost 40-inch wide doorway, as you're trying to listen to something actively taking place. If you're standing just past the coffee room, you can still hear and take part in what's going on in the meetings now. If you put a wall in with the doorway, you're not going to be able to hear the planning board. You're not going to be able to see the maps and charts. department meeting.
So that we don't want this to turn into a debate here. Microphone one. Speak.
Kathy Mitchell, I'd like to move the question.
Is there a second on moving the question? Okay, seconded by David Fox. The question has been called. All those in favor of moving, calling the question and going to the vote on this, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, the question has been called. Let's go back to Article 8 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of constructing meeting room space on the stage area located in the upstairs of the town hall. A yes vote means that you are willing to set aside $10,000 for this purpose, which is not included in the regular budget. If no, kills this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Nay. I am in doubt. Sounds like the nays have it, but let's do a standing vote, please. Inside the railing, please stand if you are in support of Article number 8. If you are in support, please stand and be counted. Those opposed to Article number 8, please stand and hold up your cards, voter cards. We'll wait for the count, but it's overwhelming. Those voting in the affirmative are 21. Those voting in the negative are 42. Warrant article number 8 fails. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Tilton Northfield Island Park Capital Reserve Fund, that was created in 2012. This appropriation is not in the budget, but has been recommended by both the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. Before we go on to any discussion on Article number 9, I just want to tell you the results of Article 7. Total number of voters registered did change to 113, however, only 87 voted. That's because we know some people have left already. Those voting in favor of Article 7 were 72. Those voting against Article 7 were 15. So I declare Article 7 as having passed. Yes, 72, no, 15. 15 no. So on Article number 9, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the Tilton Northfield Park Capital Reserve Fund. Being moved by Sandy. Do we have a second? Jerry Davis, second. Yes. Who is going to be speaking in favor of this? Are you going to be speaking first? Yes, okay.
Mr. Moderator.
The maker of the motion gets to speak first.
But I was here before you even brought that up and you didn't recognize me. I just want to ask for a motion to restrict reconsideration of the vote on Article 7.
She wants to basically protect her vote on Article 7. Is there a second on protecting, restricting reconsideration on Article 7? That was the second by who? By Sandy Plesner. Okay, this is a vote on restricting reconsideration of Article number 7. Basically means protecting your vote. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. I declare that the vote to restrict reconsideration of Article 7 passes. Now, back on Article 9, please, Sandy.
We all know that our island, our wonderful island that we all enjoy, is eroding away because the barriers that were protecting it from the waterfall have started crumbling and falling away. At the current time, we did approach the Northfield Selectmen, I believe this past year, and they were not interested at this point in helping do their half towards the island. But we do know that there are a lot of residents in Northfield who do support the island and don't want to see it disappear. The Northfield Selectmen, had suggested that they would just give us the island, but that's not possible the way the deed is written and shared by both towns. So anyway, we are very hopeful that the Northfield residents will be able to talk to their government into supporting working on the island to keep it safe for our future generations. In the meantime, we've every year have put $15,000 aside for the last 2 years. I think we started in 12. So that when we get that participation from Northfield, we'll be ready to go on having an engineering study done so that we can prepare the island for our future. So this is basically what we're asking for is another $15,000 to put into this reserve fund to hold this money, and for this very reason. So I hope you will support the idea. Any questions?
I have a question. Dave Fox, 98 High Street. If Northfield chooses not to get involved, can Tilton act on their own to protect this asset? Because it is a wonderful part of our town. And can we ask for help them?
I would believe we could, yes. Yes, with permission of the Northfield side, yes.
Microphone 2.
Dennis Manning. What is the plan? I mean, if we're going to say, yes, we can act on our own, what's the line we're going to draw, whether or not we're going to wait on Northfield? And then again, so what I'm reading this is we're making a plan. We want to fund a plan to make a plan. Am I correct in saying that?
No, we're putting money aside to do an engineering study.
Okay.
It is our hope that Northfield will join us.
Right, when are we going to do this? I mean, we're appropriating all kinds of money this year on all kinds of other stuff. So if it's not necessarily a priority this year, I think maybe we just hold off on some of the expenses this year if we have no intention of acting on anything.
Call this gentleman first, Captain.
Yeah, Bob King from Lancaster Hill. I'm just a little bit curious on this. Does anybody know where the town boundary is? In a lot of cases, when you are separated by a river, it's at somebody's high water mark on either side. Does anybody know if this is an effect in this particular incident, or is it down the middle? You're both on the island. Okay.
Do you have further?
No, that's the only question I wanted.
Catherine?
The boundary of the island is entirely in the town of Northfield. The deed to the island, Northfield and Tilton own it jointly. So there's no boundary for the deed, but the boundary for the property itself, the island is entirely in the town of Northfield.
Okay, this is just what I was, sometimes you have on the a boundary on the river one side or another owns to the high water mark. And I was just curious if the reason why they were always not voting on this or not voting for it, if there was some sort of boundary issue. Okay, thank you.
Just a minute, Joyce. I got John Scanlon, then Pat, then you.
Regarding the question on what are we going to do with the money, we know it's going to have to get fixed, and it is washing away, and it's going to cost money to do that. The thoughts are, if we put away $15,000 a year, that when it does come time that we're going to have to go and get it fixed, it won't be so hard on the taxpayers to fix it. We'll have some money salted away for it.
Pat?
Pat Clark, being that it's going into a capital reserve fund, does that mean that before you spend any of that money, you need to come before the voters again to get approval for anything, including planning? I'm sorry?
No. We're agents of the fund.
So the answer is no, we wouldn't need
You-
to.
You could spend it without coming back and telling us what your game plan is?
Yes.
Technically, would be.
Joyce is next.
I don't know if this was mentioned or not, but the island was given to the two towns from the direct descendants of Charles Tilton, who created the town of Tilton. One of these descendants lives in Northfield, and they're very committed to making sure and working with the Northfield Selectmen and the Northfield Budget Committee. They're fully aware of what the situation is there. This Board of Selectmen works very closely with the Northfield Board of Selectmen to make sure that the island is properly maintained, because it is used by so many people and it's insured by both of the communities. And I guess I can speak for residents of Northfield is that we do want to keep, we're aware that the island needs work, and we're appreciative of the town of Tilton keeping this in the forefront. Thank you.
Joe Jessamine is next, then Ken.
Currently in that fund, there's $30,000. So if we vote in another 15,000, we'll have a total of 45,000. And my understanding was that puts us in the neighborhood of being able to start the engineering study. Regardless of whether Northfield comes up with their money or not, having an island wash away, it seems silly and short-sighted. So as long as, because they're on the deed, as long as they say, yeah, go ahead and do the study, we can move forward. It would be a shame if they didn't become involved, but what we do doesn't necessarily have any bearing on what they're doing.
Ken, microphone one.
Ken Norton, East Main Street, and I would just like to support this. I think it's really an important feature of our town, both for our residents and for people that are passing through our town. It's a really enjoyable thing. I think it's prudent that we look at what needs to be done, and I think we should all talk to our neighbors across the river about how important it is for them to work with their select board to support this. Thank you.
Microphone two.
Yes, Dennis Manning again. I would love the island to look like those postcards that we see at Paulie's and everywhere else. I would love that. But I want to make a plan. If everybody wants money from the taxpayer, all I'm asking for is a plan. Let's figure out what we're going to do and make it beautiful again. I just don't want to keep messing around with all this, let's give money here and there, and maybe someday we'll make a plan.
Mr. Jessamine.
The only plan for that money is to put the wall back up so that the island doesn't erode further. That money is not going for beautifying the island or planting trees or doing anything but putting that wall back up. And we can't just go, that was my question, how come we can't just get a couple of guys in shorts and we just move the rock back? But you can't. There has to be an engineering study, and there's certain things that's got to happen.
Catherine?
The engineering study is what will create the plan for what we do to protect the shores of the island from eroding. We had a representative from the Department of Environmental Services out there a few years ago, and that's what started all this. and she indicated that Department of Environmental Services would not allow us to do what we've done year after year, which was simply to put penny cartridges, excavator out in the middle of the river, and put the granite blocks back. She wants an engineering study, because in her opinion, the granite blocks were not enough to retain the shores of the island sufficiently. So it's the engineering study that's going to develop a plan to protect those shores for us.
Can I just do a follow-up?
Yes.
I don't argue that. What I'm saying is, I don't, as the amendment's written, I don't really care for it. I don't plan to vote for it. I would like to see someone come back and say, we want to do a study. We want to get it started. We need this much money. I'm in favor of that, but I'm just not in favor of maybe someday, let's keep just putting money in something someday. And it seems like it's arbitrary who gets to do what.
Microphone one.
Juliet Harvey, 66 Dunlop Drive. I'd like to call the question.
You may do so. Is there a second? Seconded by Jerry. Question has been called. Yes, she was standing there. This young lady came over here to the microphone first and sat down, and she was the next one in the speaking order. I would like to see, the question has been called. All those in favor of closing debate, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, the debate has been closed. The question is now on Article 8. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Tilton Northfield Island Park Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2012. I'm sorry. Article 9. Did I say 8? Yes. Had to get up too early this morning. Article 9. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Tilton Northfield Island Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2012. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it, I so declare. Article 10. See if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $35,000 to be added to the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2012. Mr. Jessamine.
I'd like to, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move Article 10 for the floor for discussion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jerry Davis. Mr. Jessamine.
We've been putting money away on a regular basis for years to accommodate our equipment needs, so that when we have a new piece of equipment that we need, we're not hit all at once with $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. We just bought a Chevy dump truck with 1 ton, and we paid cash for that. And in 2014, we're scheduled to start putting away extra money for the New Holland backhoe that needs to be replaced. I don't know if you've seen our town backhoe, but to just look at it, it's amazing to me that it even runs, but they do a good job of keeping it going. We currently have $70,000 in that fund. The new backhoe is anticipated it would cost approximately $105,000. So I would say that we should continue to put money away towards our equipment needs.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 to be added to the Highway Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2012. All those in favor of Article 10, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 10 passes, I so declare. Article 11, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be added to the town roads, streets, and bridges reconstruction and/or repair capital reserve fund that was created in 2005. Mr. LaPlante.
I'd like to make Article 11 the floor for discussion.
Okay, Article 11 has been moved for discussion and seconded by Jerry Davis. He did have his hand up. Mr. LaPlante.
Simple explanation, put money away, 65,000 to maintain our roads, sidewalks, disrepair, and make sure that we're not spending millions of dollars later on in life if we go out on some roads in town. So put the money away now.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 11, to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be added to the town roads, streets, and bridges reconstruction and/or repair capital reserve fund was created in 2005. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 11 passes, so declare. Article 12. See if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the recreational facilities capital reserve fund that was created in 2002. The appropriation is not included in the operating budget. It's been recommended by the selectmen but not by the budget committee. Yes, sir.
If we could have the control room perhaps get more electrical power down here to the display case.
You know what? The power cord was unplugged on the computer. No, actually, it isn't. Okay, Article 12. Catherine Dawson, would you like to move that?
I'll move Article 12 to the floor for discussion.
It's been moved by Catherine Dawson and seconded by Jerry Davis to move Article 12 to the floor for discussion. And we would like very much to have Catherine speak to that.
Actually, I'd like to defer that discussion to the chairman of the park committee. Bob Hardy. I'd like to defer discussion to Bob Hardy, Parks Commissioner Chair. I got the microphone, it's right here. Oh.
Technical difficulties.
Would you defer to? Bob Hardy, the Parks Commissioner Chair. Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Hardy, would you please like to speak to Article 12, please?
I use this one as well. What this article is, it gives us $5,000 additional money to our capital reserve account, which was set up several years ago for programs. It's not for the maintenance of the park, it's just for programs or structures that offer programs. We used this account several years ago for the ice skating rink. What we're looking for, last year we brought in 2 zoo programs. We are going to be doing that again this year, paying for those programs to come. We're also looking to continue the wildlife series program we offered last year, having speakers come in and talk about wildlife. We're looking at possibly a backstop. The 132 ball field cannot be used for games. It can be used for practice by the youth program, baseball and softball programs, but can't be used for games because there's no backstop there, there's no structures for delineating the outside field edges and so forth. So that's the type of things we're looking to use this capital reserve account for.
Any questions? Yes.
Emily LaPlante, Tilton, New Hampshire. I'd like to know how many times the ice skate rink behind the mall has been used.
That's a reasonable question.
Yeah,
Mr. Hardy?
because the last year, I haven't seen it used much, and I was there quite a bit.
I'll defer that to the gentleman that's done all the maintenance this year up there, Peter Fogg. And ask Peter, he's been up there on a daily basis, flooding it and maintaining it. He can give a better idea.
Peter Fogg, 10 Ruby Lane. I can't really give you figures. All I can say is that it's open 24 hours a day. If you go there after dark, the lighting for the parking lot at Tanger lights the rink up. I've been there multiple times. You can see where people have skated on it. That's all I can add.
Any other questions? Just microphone 2.
Clark, the reason I was asking on Article 8, if it being a capital reserve fund, if you had to bring it before the voters to expend the monies, is because of Article number 12. I was disappointed in putting a well on property that we use but belongs to the church. And I don't think it was voted on by the selectmen to do that. I think that just went through the park committee. I don't like the idea of having money go into a fund that we have no control over, a major expenditure like that, that if the church sold that property tomorrow, we would not get that money back. That's a real problem for me to do that. I'm for the programs that you do, but I'm not for that kind of spending.
Any other questions or comments? Jane?
Yes, Jane Alden, Tilton. I'd just like to know how much is in that fund now and what has been spent and for what.
Mr. Pearson, can you answer that question?
I believe we have a little over 29,000 in that fund currently.
What's been spent?
I'd have to run a report to see exactly what they've spent out. There have been some expenditures this past year.
Ellen Hanks, 37 Brook Road, Tilton, New Hampshire. I can tell you, as a parent, I've brought my kids to several things that the Recreation and Parks have facilitated. They had an exotic animal presentation at the park. There was a lot of great turnout. It wasn't like 5 kids were there, it was more like 20 kids were there. They did that multiple times with the same turnout. They've done things with Fish and Game, with teaching kids how to fish. They're doing a lot of different things other than just ice skating, and I wouldn't want to see that go away. So I appreciate the question of trying to figure out how much we have in there, but I more appreciate what they've been offering each year and then increasing those offerings, because my kids have been loving them, and it's a great way to get families out there. Thank you.
John Scanlon?
Yes, as you see, the Article 12 is not recommended by the Budget Committee. There were 2 yes, 5 no. One of the reasons was we thought that there was sufficient funds in there already to keep it going, and that this would be a good year for adding an additional 5,000. And I think that covers it.
Mr. Pearson?
It appears as though there were expenditures of just under $3,000 out of that fund in 2013, and I believe that accounted for a mower for the park.
Expenditures of approximately $3,000 during 2013. Okay. There are no other questions. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of Article 12 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the Recreational Facilities Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2002. This appropriation is not included in the operating budget. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
I would say that the nays have won. The article fails to pass. Article 13. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the reevaluation capital reserve fund that was created in 2002. This appropriation was not included in the operating budget. It was recommended by both the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. I recognize Pat Constantino.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move Article 13 to the floor for discussion.
And second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jerry Davis. Pat, would you like to speak to this?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to defer to our Town Administrator, Joyce While in this article.
Okay, Joyce.
Thank you. As you know, 5 years ago, we started a process where we budget money in our regular operating budget to not only pay for our regular contract assessing services, but also to do data verification for updating all of our values. We've just completed that process, and you'll be getting a letter soon from the Selectmen, just making you aware that we will be conducting the 2014 revaluation update. And new values will go into effect in December of 2014. One of the things that we've done to even out the impact, because the cost of revaluations are very, very expensive, and by doing this data verification over a period of time, we've been able to keep that cost down. Annually, we've been appropriating $20,000 to go into the revaluation capital reserve fund, and we will be withdrawing, and I'll tell you the exact amount. Right now in that account, we have $56,030. The total cost for the reval and our contract assessing for 2014 is $91,900. We will be using our regular operating budget appropriation of $38,568, withdrawing $53,332 from the capital reserve fund for this purpose, which will only leave us a balance of $2,698, and that's not counting the interest earned we'll get in 2014. So this warrant article is to replenish that fund so that in another 4 years we'll be able to update all the values again. And this way, it does not have any tax impact this year on doing our update.
Any questions or comments? Microphone 2.
Mr. Moderator, Scott Davis, how often do we go out for a contractual bid on this? I mean, we've with the company we are now, or we stuck with them or do we bid it out on a regular basis, or could you explain that, Joyce?
Joyce?
Well, let's see, there was a reval in 2005, correct? And that was vision appraisal. And then, so that went out, so 2009, we've used Avatar Associates, and we've been pleased with their services, and they defend their values. They defend their values. So we entered into this plan with them 4 years ago. So we're just finishing up that contract this year, 2014. There aren't that many companies in the state that do it, but that is a possibility that we can for the next go round.
Any other questions or comments on Article number 13? Seeing none. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the reserve reevaluation capital reserve fund that was created in 2002. This appropriation was not included in the operating budget. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passed, and so declared. Article 14. See if the town will vote to appropriate and raise the sum of $1,500 for the lake improvement / maintenance capital reserve fund that was created in 2007. Mr. Jessamine?
Article number 14 to the floor for discussion, please.
Would we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jerry.
Who is that?
Mr. Jessamine?
We've been putting away $1,500 a year to get the milfoil out of our lakes. That would include the Tilton side of Silver Lake, as well as the shore along Lake Winnisquam that runs up to the Mosquito Ridge. What the Mosquito it's called? Sorry. Yeah, okay. Specialized equipment was needed to deal with this stuff. It's the weeds that are at the intake and the outtake of the lakes along the river in Lake Winnisquam and Silver Lake. The Silver Lake Association finally got the funds to get a boat, and they applied last year. And they're looking to make an application again this year to work in Silver Lake. And there's a group, a marina up near the bridge that had expressed an interest in it as well. But otherwise, the milfoil will take over the lakes and ruin the breeding grounds for our fish. And then the lakes become damp. So I would recommend we do it.
Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none. Article number 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 for the Lake Improvement Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund that was created in 2007. All those in favor of Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 14, I declare as passed. Article 15, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee's recommended sum of $5,339,740 for the general municipal operations as posted, part of the warrant in MS7 form. Now, this does not include any of those articles previously passed today which require funding. But I know that someone here has been tracking all of that. Mr. Scanlon, have you? John Scanlon, Chair of the Budget Committee.
I'd like to bring Article 15 to the floor for discussion.
Seconded by Jerry Davis.
Okay, the Budget Committee's been working all year round, and we meet with all the various departments and go over each line item, very in depth. Starting in around September, we meet weekly, spend many hours going over these things and voting on each one of them, as well as the outside agencies. There were some changes made by the Budget Committee to this year's recommendations from the selectmen. There you have it. It's the budget.
Is there anyone with the selectmen or Tim want to speak on the budget? Jane, you have a question?
Jane Alden, Tilton. I'd like to move to amend Article 15, see if the town will vote to increase line item 4130-10-130, that's the selectman's salary, by $3,000. The reason I'm doing this would be an additional $100 per month. Current rate, selectmen get $300. This would increase it to $400. I'm doing that because the last time they received a raise was in the year 2008. As I said earlier, I go to all the selectmen's meetings. I know that this is a working group of selectmen. They don't just attend a meeting once a week, but they're out where they're needed at all times. The cost of gasoline, the cost of car maintenance have gone up, and I don't think we are giving them their just due. And so that I'd like to make that amendment.
Is there a second? Is there a second to that? Seconded by Jerry. I do not have a copy. Wait a minute. you did somewhere. There we go. That's right. I passed it up. Article 15, amendment to see if the town will vote to increase line item 4130-10-130 selectmen's salaries by $3,000. And I guess it's up there. Increase that line item from $18,000 to $21,000. It has been duly moved and seconded. Any more questions or comments? Microphone 2.
As I mentioned, I have had some dealings with the town selectmen and the fence viewing committee that they appointed, and I can vouch that these people put in more time and more effort than you will ever know of. And so I would support and recommend a recommendation favorably on this article.
Yes, our town clerk would like to be recommended.
I'd like to agree with Mr. Sellers. Those that aren't around the town hall that often don't realize that the selectmen are working almost 24 hours a day for us. They are not only taking phone calls at home in the middle of the night, but having meetings, maybe sometimes 3 or 4, every couple of days. I mean, they're on different committees, not only in the town, but state committees, protecting the townspeople of Tilton. So I vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I'd like to move on to a vote on the amendment. The amendment, which is up on the screen, is to again go to line item 4130-10-130 to increase that line item by $3,000 from $18,000 to $21,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The amendment to Article 15 has passed, so that now takes on Article 15, increases that amount of money by $3,000. So it's now up to $5,342,000. The 39 goes to the 42. Thank you. $5,342,740. Any other questions? Seeing none. Let's go Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee's recommended sum of $5,340,740 for the general municipal operations and posted as a part of warrant article MS7 form. The warrant in MS7 form. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 15 passes. No, all of those separate warrant articles voted on earlier today are in addition to this.
Final total?
We will have a final total for you in one moment. I would like to just offer an apology this morning. We discovered at 7:45 that we had forgot somehow or other the voter ID cards that you signed this morning. You could probably tell we rushed to put that together. We didn't have time to make multiple copies on multiple one-sided sheets and then cut them all up. And so that's what happened, and we apologize. We were not trying to kill more trees. One of my other hats that I have is a member of the Conservation Commission. I just want to tell you that we are making definite progress down at the old Ernie's Garage site in town. As you probably know, that site was purchased. We've had an extensive cleanup going with both funds from New Hampshire Division of Environmental Services, some oil fund connected with the state, as well as the federal grant They found last fall an old hydraulic lift that had been buried in the ground. That had to all be removed. All that soil had to be removed. Soil will be coming in sometime this spring, and we hope to have something much more positive to show you as the year goes on. I just wanted to let you know that that site is going to be progressing. It is a part of the Winnipesaukee Trail, and we hope to also be able to have some more positive results on the adjoining piece to the south as you go into town, which the town does own, and it's possible that the trail will go across that and eventually a bridge crossover down near where the old dam was over into Northfield. And we did do in the fall a cleanup on that site, as you probably noticed. We're going to make an effort this year to keep that site cleaned up for you. So we are making some improvements along that. I thought you should know. Yes, ma'am.
Are we at Article 16 yet?
I have a total if you'd like.
Okay, please do that.
So the taxable base will be $5,505,381. The authorization of the bond is $2.675 million.
$5,505,381. $381.
Which is what our taxes were based on.
5,505,381. And then you have given the town the authority to bond on Article number 2. Is there anything else for business today? Yes.
I'm Rue Magby, and I would like to encourage people to sign up for the art sale. You can sign up out here or at Town Hall anytime before April 18th.
Okay. Microphone 2.
Mr. Moderator, Scott Davis. Question, can we get what the balance is on the unreserved fund balance?
You hear that question? Mr. Pearson?
Yes, as of January 2013, it was just over $1 million, and we anticipate that we will have added about $200,000 in 2013, and we're going through our own agreement.
So will it be in addition to, Mr. Moderator, to the 1 million?
That's correct.
Is that correct? And as far as the ballots, I think it worked out nice. And on the recycling committee, we appreciate that, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. After Ken. Ken, microphone 1.
Ken Norton, East Main Street. I'd like people to join me in publicly thanking Sandy Plessner for her years of service in the community.
You know, those, I hate to say this, but you know, the Plessners, they keep coming back. We have a couple more. Cindy, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I'd just like to, anyone that was re-elected or elected this past election Tuesday, to please come down to see me to be sworn in at the end of this meeting. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
Yes, Dennis Manning. I would like to make one final request to the selectmen and all parties involved. I know Cindy is her position and her assistant's position are the only positions that have duty descriptions as far as what their daily duties are and expectations and so forth. Do you have them all? Are they posted somewhere for all employees? They are posted on the website?
No, they can be.
That would be great. I'd love to see those, please. Okay, thank you.
You read mine? You like that?
Town clerk is out of order.
Marjorie Bonneville, Silver Lake Road. And before the meeting ends, I would just like to publicly thank everybody who serves this town. The selectmen, budget committee, all the different committees, the firemen and the policemen. I think we have a town that we can be proud of, and I just want to thank them for all their hours of service.
Yes.
Lucinda Hope, Lancaster Hill Road, and I'm wondering if ice skating is more popular than town meeting.
Not for me.
Yes, yes, Pat.
We welcome John into our family of selectmen over here, and with John coming over the backside, there's an opening for the budget committee, so if anybody out there would like to donate some community service and get their hand wet in some figures and numbers and join us, please put your name into the budget committee and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Yes, Terry.
How long do people see me? A lot. I've been on it for 41 years, and it's going on 44 years in the fire department. And I am tell them pretty soon I am going to retire. Let the young guys do it now, because all the people are going to miss me.
Sandy?
Mr. Murray, I would just like to say a very special thank you to Judy Tilton for all that she's done to help us with our meetings.
Thank you, Judy.
Raised $73.94 for the senior center today.
Okay, that motion is appropriate. Move that the meeting be adjourned. All those in favor say aye. It passed. Anybody's in the pool?
She's doing it in Utah. Sun City.
That's all, folks.